Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Aaron Rutten, and I'm joined today with Lawrence Mann.
Hi, folks.
And we are going to do some digital painting with Corel Painter. While we're doing some digital painting today, you can feel free to ask us questions about digital painting, artwork in general, Wacom tablets, anything like that. So feel free to comment in. Lawrence has a piece that he's working on,
Yep.
and I have a blank canvas because I don't know what I'm going to do today. So if anybody has any requests, maybe I'll combine multiple requests or I'll just start doodling. I'm not sure, but we're just going to go ahead and go at it here. Thanks for all the comments that everybody chatted in while they were waiting patiently for us to go live. It's good to see you, Artist Modro, Ewan Gaming, Joseph David, Jonas Weising. Sorry if I mispronounced all of your names. I probably did. So just to give everybody some background, so we can, so nobody has to ask the questions. We are
Yeah.
using Wacom tablets. We're both using Cintiqs. I'm using the Cintiq 24, and Lawrence is using the Cintiq 27.
27 QHD Touch.
Yeah,
Lovely, long, big name. But yeah, it's the touch version.
and we're both using Corel Painter 2016.
Yeah. And if you want, we can also give you a lovely discount code for that. Because, and I think, are we allowed to say this now, Aaron?
That we're Corel Painter Master Elite.
Yep, we are elites now.
Yay! And that actually
Yes.
is pretty important to me because when I started out as a digital painter, that's kind of one of the goals that I aimed for
Yeah.
is
No.
to become a painter master. And I wouldn't have even thought that I would become. I don't know if they had the elite back then, but to be one of the elite too it's a real honor.
Yeah. Well, I mean, last year we were chosen as only 10 in the world.
Yeah,
That's pretty special. That's pretty special right there. You
it's
know.
it's nice to be able to have those kind of goals to aim for. It makes you try a little bit harder. I
Yeah.
think as an artist,
Yeah.
because they don't just give those to everyone. I mean, you have to really be part of the digital arts community. I mean, it's not just about talent. I think it's about if you're really a master, it has nothing to do with how well you can paint. It has to do with how well you can help other people learn how to paint.
Yeah.
And so when people ask, how do you become a master, or how come this person isn't a master but other people are, it's a lot of the time it doesn't matter if they're really good at using Painter. It's kind of what role you play in the community.
Yeah. Exactly. It's about how much you're willing to do and how much you're willing to help other people and get involved.
Mm-hmm.
It's like for me, I believe that all artists have a responsibility to get involved with the software and the hardware that we use as artists to help develop that.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, I mean, both of us, you and I, we're both beta testers,
Yeah.
um, you know, for Corel. But it's not just about beta testing, because we could beta test this, we could beta test other things as well. And a lot of people beta test lots of software.
Yeah.
People better test games, but it's not just about that. It's about, the fact that both of us have YouTube channels. We offer advice on a daily basis. We do tutorials. We do lots of things to get involved with the arts community,
Yeah.
you know, to help other artists grow and develop. And that's a part of why we've been given the titles that we've been given.
Yeah. And I think it's when I was younger and I'd think about what do I want to be when I grow up, and it was pretty broad. I knew I wanted to do something with art and be an artist, but a lot of the time was spent wanting to be famous for the work, for each painting that I make. And thinking about it later, it's like, you want to have a legacy as an artist, but what do you want that legacy to be? Do you want it to be completely self-centered and be based just upon, I painted this or I painted that, or do you want to be able to say, that you had some more meaningful, less selfish impact on the world with your art? And I think that, if I had to choose between the two, I'd be much happier teaching people on YouTube how to make art rather than, living in some mansion painting, whatever, and just, having people pay millions of dollars for me painting a blue square on a yellow canvas.
Yeah, I'll ask you that again once you've got the mansion.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know if I'd want all that stuff. How do you feel?
Oh no, I think the mansion would be pretty sweet, you know.
It wouldn't.
Especially once I've built my Batman cave at the bottom of it.
What about, like, I mean, from a practical standpoint, that would be a lot of. I guess if you have a mansion, you'd probably have maids and people to do all the maintenance and everything. But it just seems like it would be
A lot of work.
mo money, mo problems. You know what I mean?
Um, I don't know. Don't know how much I'd be upset by it.
I think it would be. It would probably end up being a burden after a while. Then I
You
also
think?
wonder, like, people's opinions of you change. I mean, think about how much
Yeah.
criticism you get now, just having a YouTube channel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Multiply that by hundreds of thousands, by millions, and that's how it would be to be a celebrity or a famous artist. You'd have magazines and whole articles dedicated to picking apart your work. You'd have people sitting around on websites saying how much they hate Lawrence Mann or Aaron Rutten, and
That is very, very true.
you'd be
You
sitting.
do get a lot of, yeah. You
Um,
do get a lot of haters out there in the world.
yeah. For everybody out there in the audience, feel free to comment in and let us know if the audio and the video is working all right. Are you able to see both of our screens? Are you able to hear us clearly? I'm just asking because the comments are kind of quiet. And if you have questions too about what we're doing or about us as artists, feel free to ask. It'd be funny if some people tuned in and thought we were playing Guess a Sketch and they're trying to figure out what I'm drawing. That's the thing. I can see what you're drawing. You can't see what I'm drawing.
Yeah.
So that's a mystery.
Well, actually,
Yeah, you could pull up the stream. Artist Madra says it's perfect. Figgy Lee says yes. Hello, Figgy Lee.
I have got the stream open, but I am going to close it and just keep this chat open because otherwise it's just going to be ridiculous.
Yeah. I'm doing kind of a sketchbook style. I refer to these things that I do as sketches because I draw them in a sketchbook, but I draw them with ink. And so I don't know that they're necessarily sketches, but I guess they're more. You can't really call them doodles either because I am doodling. Like, I don't really have anything in mind when I'm doing it, but it ends up looking clean enough to be considered a finished piece. But I just draw lines and I just kind of draw from my imagination. And it gives me practice, like there are often a lot of things kind of mixed together, different forms. Like Lawrence and I were talking earlier about how we both tend to draw a lot of faces. And so when I'm doing these little improvised drawings, there's usually a lot of human anatomy, often facial features.
We said we'd put on the cameras for our introduction.
Yeah.
I wondered if you'd turn that off now.
I turned mine off, but yours, we've just been staring at your head. No, I'm just kidding. I switched them, so.
Ah, you have switched them off.
Yeah, I switched them like right after we started.
Oh, okay.
Thanks for reminding me though, because I've done a lot of streams in the past where I'll forget stuff.
You forget to turn the camera off.
Yeah, or forget to switch the, like when you're doing uh, when you're managing the Google Hangout thing, like you can pick who you're looking at if you click on their little square, and it'll lock the camera to that person. So there'd be times where we'd have 3 or 4 people, and I was trying to lock it on somebody, and then someone else would start talking, and I'd forget to switch it to them. So you'd be staring at somebody who's not talking while hearing someone else who is.
Yeah, and it's just weird.
Yeah. Um, Also, feel free to comment in and let us know if you like this variety, because I know some of you have watched a lot of the live streams we've done, and a lot of those lately have been the Guess a Sketch streams. And I just want to know out of curiosity if you like this better or equally or worse. Because I know, like, not just for your sake, I know we probably don't want to do the same thing all the time. That's kind of like for me too. I don't know about you, Lawrence, but I get kind of bored if I do the same thing too much.
Yeah, I think as well the guest sketch doesn't really show us off as artists very
Yeah,
well.
yeah, that
I
that's
think, we do come in and just doodle and we're just having fun, and it's great because we do have a lot of fun doing guest sketch.
mm-hmm.
But, if someone was looking for a professional artist to hire, yeah, it doesn't really show us in a good light.
You know, you know what I think it does show positively is if somebody was looking for a logo designer or for a brand designer, we'd probably look all right, because we're taking a word, not looking at a reference photo and drawing it
Yeah.
entirely from memory in a minute or two. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
With
we can throw plenty of ideas out there at least, and
and there's a severe handicap from the software too. Like if we're doing Guess a Sketch with Corel Painter, that's a whole different story. I can whip out something much better looking pretty fast if I have the tools that I'm used to.
yeah.
But you don't even have blenders in Drawpile, so I
No,
have a
I mean, but neither of us professionally use that kind of style that we're using in there,
yeah.
which is weird that we both kind of draw this cartoony style when we use that program.
You kind of have to. You know what I mean? It's like if you try to do too much underpainting or foundation sketching, people will guess it before you even have something that even looks like a cartoon. People will be guessing the word when it's just like a framework of lines, or it's going to take 5 or 10 minutes to draw. I
Yeah.
mean, it at any point somebody's going to guess it before it's finished. So if you do it in a cartoon style, at least it's going to look more complete.
Melissa says, "How on earth do you do realistic painterly light and shadow in digital art? Hope it's not too early to ask questions." No, it's not too early to ask questions. Ask questions whenever you like, my dear. Artist Modro says, "Good question."
Definitely a good question.
To me, it's all about having good reference images. Um, for instance, for this piece here that you can see, um, for this piece here, I had a reference image, and the reference image was a photo that I took using my iPhone of myself. Um, I don't know if Aaron wants to turn my camera back on for a second.
Yeah. Okay, you're on.
I literally, my beard was a bit longer than this at the time, but I literally just grabbed my iPhone and just went, and I don't know if you can see that, but that's clearly me on screen.
Yeah, here, I'll switch it back and forth real quick. Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah,
Your head's kind of cocked back though. But
yeah, I
yeah,
can't.
it's definitely you. this whole
I took
live.
a lot of reference photos. I took like 30. I just was going like that and changing the because I couldn't see my phone and like I can't see my camera now and I just took a load of photos changing the position like that. But I put before I did it, I was only in the house. So I
Yeah.
put a lamp on and kind of lit myself a bit, you know. But you don't have to do that. You can just go online, go on Pinterest, go on Tumblr, you know, just go on Google Images and do searches for good reference images. I have a Pinterest page. You can do a search for it. It's just Lawrence Can Draw.
Mm-hmm.
And there on my Pinterest, I have folders full of reference images, not just for me, but for you as well, purposely. I have folders full of female faces, male faces, male poses, female poses. Um, what else do I have? I have sci-fi locations, fantasy armor, sci-fi armor. I have, folders full of everything with thousands of images in. Each folder's got thousands of images in. I have hairstyles and everything. So when a client comes to me and says, I want that, I want a dragon and I want this character and this is kind of what he looks like, I can say to my client, right, go have a look in my Pinterest folders, and set up your own Pinterest board and put me some images in that are kind of like the character that you envision.
Yeah.
What color hair do they have? Roughly who do they look like? Kind of build me up a board of what you can see in your head,
Mm-hmm.
and it helps me. And then I've got some reference images, but they don't just come from me, they come from my client as well.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely great. That really helps me. And as an artist, I go away and I do the same thing as well.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, when I'm dealing with light and shade, it's very much the same thing. In the studio, I keep things around like this.
Yeah. That's
Now you
that's
can see my
that's
screen's got the picture of the devil guy here.
yeah.
So it's reflecting, a lot of red light is coming up. I mean, look at that.
Yeah.
This is a simple polystyrene ball from just like an arts and crafts shop. But look at that. If I have to paint, a planet or something like that, look at that for a reference image.
You've just like we're on the exact same page because before you even grab that thing, I pulled up the little orb for apply surface texture in Corel Painter. So we're on to the same lesson here, and that's
Yeah.
that you have to study three-dimensional forms. A devil's face is mainly a sphere. There's other parts to it, but it's a combination of primitive shapes. And once you know how to shade a sphere or a cone or a cylinder or a cube or a torus, you're going to know how to shade combinations of those things, faces, cars, anything. And so
Exactly.
you have to take the time to make the observation. And observation is not looking at something. You have to look at it and you have to understand what you're looking at. You have to look at it and go, okay, now I see the shape that the light makes as it's going across that surface. Now I see the reflection from Lawrence's hand and from the devil that's on his screen influencing that sphere. What color is that ball? Is that a white ball? We know that it's white, but looking at it, it's actually pink because it's so close to his screen.
Yeah.
And so if you don't have a physical ball and you're using Corel Painter, you can go to Effects, Surface Control, Apply Surface Texture, and there is a little three-dimensional sphere with a little light that you can move across it, like you see here, just like Lawrence's ball in real life. I could set the lighting on this ball to a similar position. The texture is a little more specular, a little more shiny than Lawrence's.
Yeah, and that works really, really well.
Yeah. Um, but once you understand that, then you can look back at Lawrence's devil here, and you can see that there's light spilling around the edge. He has multiple light sources, so let's add a couple lights to our sphere here. So we got one on the edge, add another on the back side, and maybe one in the front. And now you have some lighting that's kind of similar to what Lawrence has going on. So go outside, look at these shapes, look at reference photos, look at fundamental primitive shapes, and make those observations and make them multiple times until that stuff comes natural to you, and then it's going to be really easy to paint lighting and shadows. Um, do you have some tips for how to do it in Painter? Like what are some brushes or some layers or composite methods that you would use while you're shading? I was doing a example there of the shading on the head. Yeah, you can break it down. Like if the head's basically a sphere, you have to think about where's your light coming from. So it's predominantly coming from the top right, and so it's going to cast a shadow on the opposite side, which is the bottom left. And then he has some rim highlights of some light that's probably behind the devil. Maybe you can see it there. There's the fire from the door down there on the bottom left, and that's reflecting light that's spilling around the edge of the sphere. So if you were looking at the back of his head, you would see a really bright spot kind of where that light is spilling over. And so as the edge fades on that, it kind of disappears, and that's why you get that almost outlining effect. It's a really good example of lighting. I would say for me, I tend to use screen composite methods and things like the glow brush when I'm doing highlights and light. And when I'm doing shadows, I use the multiply composite method, and I'll tint things.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. Because I like to paint with, I like to go in and get nitty gritty.
Uh-huh.
Because I like to, I'm just a control freak with a brush, basically. I prefer to just do it like this and go in stroke at a time.
I have a really weird way of painting. I think I use layers quite a bit more than most people do, where
Yeah.
once I've painted that edge, or once I've defined a two-dimensional shape, I don't want to paint it again, and I don't want to paint
Yeah,
it.
you
I don't
don't
want
want
to
to
paint
mess with.
like I don't want to go back and forth and repaint anything, and that I think that has a lot to do with being a graphic designer. You know what I mean? Like you want everything to be editable as layers, so that if your client asks you to change the color of something, you don't have to start over from scratch.
No, I get that. I'm pretty much the same when I work in Photoshop, but when I work in Painter, I I actually try and work on fewer layers,
Yeah. Well, it's
which is
definitely
strange.
it's definitely a speed. There's a speed advantage, because if I'm painting outside and I'm doing plein air painting and I'm trying to do a landscape or an animal or something,
Yeah.
I'll use hardly any layers at all. I'll use a brush, and a blender maybe, and very rarely will I use more than a few brushes and a few layers, and that's because I don't have the time to sit there and name layers, and it's not. I'm not going to be able to work on it for more than a few hours.
Yeah. No, I get that.
Um, we got a few more comments here. Sebastian got an Intuos yesterday, Intuos Pro. That's awesome. That's a really good tablet.
Cool.
Melissa Jenkins says that's a great idea with Pinterest. Ewan Gaming has the Intuos Art Pen and Touch, also a good tablet. And Ewan wants to know, how do I make a perfect shape? I'm always trying, but it turns out really sketchy. What do you think about that?
Um,
I think maybe they mean the smoothness of the edges on the shapes.
well, I mean, you have. up here you have the shape tools.
I think they
So
mean more like let's say like the side of your double's head. You know what I mean? That's a pretty smooth line or a pretty smooth shape. I mean, it's a little sketchy, but
yeah.
I think maybe that's what they're getting at.
Well,
Per-
I would say go with a larger brush size. I see a lot of people using small brushes, and I think it when you look at a professional's work and you think, wow, that's you got some really smooth lines there. And I look at a lot of more amateur work, and it does seem really shaky.
mm-hmm.
And I think it's because when I actually watch the amateur artist working, it's because they've stayed with really small brushes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a confidence thing.
Yeah.
I think it's because they they haven't started off using large brushes, or they haven't been confident enough to change their brush sizes enough while they work. And maybe it's because it's a thing that you learn as well as you're working, is to work with the shortcuts. You know,
Yeah.
when you're working with a Cintiq and with a Wacom, things like the Intuos, you know, you've got your hotkeys,
Mm-hmm.
so you program them differently as you get more experienced. And it's like right now, the button that I have my finger on the most, the hotkey that I have my finger on the most, is for brush size, and that's because I'm constantly changing my brush size.
Mm-hmm.
That's what this green dot is that you can see. You know, there might be a bit of lag, so you might not see it too often because I might be going a bit fast, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean
You have to
that's
use.
that's the one that I'm using the most.
Yeah, you got to use the right brush for the right job. I have a few examples on the screen here. I used a smaller brush to draw kind of a curved line with repeated segmented strokes, and you can see it's very jagged. Versus when I used this scratchboard tool and I used a bigger, wider brush and I did a more quick stroke, the curve came out smoother. And I think it's a combination of what Lawrence said about the brush size, and then also the quickness or the spontaneity of your stroke. You know,
Yeah.
if you do too slow of a stroke, your hand's going to wiggle back and forth and jitter around a lot, and you're going to get a really jittery line. Versus if you do a really fast stroke, now given I have smoothing on this brush, but even if I turn it off, I'll turn damping all the way down. Even if I do a really quick stroke like that, I'm getting a nice smooth curve. Now, you can't draw everything that way quickly and spontaneously. So what I do is I use the pinch distortion brush, and the pinch distortion brush is going to suck pixels in towards its center like a vacuum. And you can actually use that to paint back and forth over a jagged line to smooth it out, like so. You can even do that with something that, let's say, is a soft edge. If you want to make it hard, you just paint over it. So I rough in my shapes, and then I go through and I smooth them out however I like. Or if I need to distort it using distortion, I'll do that. You know, I can bulge it and smudge it around. But that's kind of how I deal with correcting shapes.
Now that's a good point, but again, that could be seen as confidence.
Yeah.
To have the speed to do that. You know, do
Yeah,
you see what I mean?
it definitely is, and it's, you know, you have to draw. I mean, how many lines have you drawn? You know, you can't even count that many because you've done so many paintings that are line for line.
Do you know? Wouldn't it be great if Painter would actually tell me that at the end? I could click the info button or something, and Painter would actually say, "Right, this painting has so many strokes, so many undos.
I recall hearing about, I think it was Jeremy Sutton or somebody told me about an app they were using that records the stats. So I think you could see how,
Sketchable does it.
yeah, maybe that was you saying you could see how long you're working on it or something, but maybe I'm
Yeah,
wrong about recording stats, but that would be, I don't
yeah.
know, the number would be so large that it would almost, there's almost no point in knowing, like, did I make 200,000 brushstrokes or 2,500 brushstrokes. It's like it'd probably be more than 2,000. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, if I counted individual hairs in that beard that you drew, there's probably easily a few thousand there.
I will know because I've been using the Real Blender flat brush.
uh,
So it's kind of multiple lines are actually one brushstroke.
yeah.
I cheated a bit.
Feel free to comment
Yeah.
in, Ewan, and let us know if we answered your question, because we might have totally gone off on the wrong direction on that. um,
If I zoom in, can you see that there?
hold still for just a minute because it's a little blocky.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I can see it now. The multiple stroke, or what are you pointing out?
Oh, I'm gonna read some comments here.
Yeah, it looks like you used a combination of brushes to do the hair.
Oh yeah,
Are
yeah, God,
those
yeah.
real bristle brushes or dynamic speckle?
Real Bristol brushes.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I love
Uh,
those. They're absolutely great. Right. Melissa says, do you think that Painter is better than Photoshop for the painterly look? Yes,
yeah.
because Photoshop has only been trying for about 5 minutes to do painterly stuff. And to be honest, they plumb most of their resources, like 90% of their resources, into doing kind of stuff for 3D guys.
You can.
The only painterly kind of thing they actually have is a blender brush, which I will admit is pretty nice. I will admit their blender brush is pretty damn good. But I have to say that it comes down to the artist. It depends how good you are. You know,
Yeah.
not the tool you use.
Yeah. You could probably make a painterly looking piece of art with Microsoft Paint from the 1990s. You know what I mean?
Be bloody hard
If
though.
if you wanted to do it, well, what
Yep,
is it? What is a
you
digital
could.
paint? A digital painting or a photo is just a series of pixels, right? If you went
Yep.
pixel for pixel with just a pencil brush, not even a tablet, you could, if you were skilled enough, make something that looks like a painting.
Hey!
So what it comes down to is how
So,
much time do you want to spend doing that? Do you want to spend a lot of extra time and
exactly.
have a handicap, or do you want to have the right tool for the right job? I mean, do you want to draw all of your artwork with a ballpoint pen, like a Bic or something? You could do that if that's your thing, or you could use acrylic paints or oils or digital or make collages. I mean, you can use whatever you want. There's no right or wrong, but to think that, I don't know.
Well, that's it, and I think you hit the nail on the head. It's about having the right tool for the job, and that's why Painter is called Painter.
Yeah.
And Photoshop, I mean, we all kind of forget what Photoshop is because Photoshop is a word in the dictionary now. But it's Photoshop. It's a tool developed originally for photographers,
Yeah.
but it's become kind of this thing for everybody now. And yeah, a lot of digital artists use it, but for digital painters, Painter actually has a lot more tools, and especially if you want that kind of real media, kind of feel, there's a lot more to Painter.
Yeah.
You know,
I can see
if
there.
you just go to the brush settings and have a look. I don't know if you use it yourself, Melissa, but if you don't, then just download the demo, have a look at the brush settings, or just go and look at some screen captures. on Google Images, and the amount of brush settings in there compared to Photoshop.
Yeah, it's
You know,
ridiculous.
yeah, it really
Um,
is.
I wonder why people still use it, and I think a lot of it is maybe they paid a lot of money for it, because it was kind of expensive to buy the full version, or maybe they don't want to learn something new because they're comfortable with it. Maybe they don't use.
No, I'll defend Photoshop. I still use it, and I still love it, and it still does a lot of things. I mean, there are things like the liquify tool is awesome.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are superior in Photoshop as far as image manipulation, but then we're getting out of the context of painting. And
Yeah,
yeah, I mean it, I Photoshop for me is indispensable because I use it for pretty much every digital painting to process it and to edit it. But do I use it to do the painting in it? No. But
yeah, exactly.
it's like I'm not going to use Photoshop to edit my video. I could quit using Premiere Pro and I could edit my video in Photoshop. Why
Yeah,
not? You know.
exactly.
But like
It's
why?
different tools for different jobs.
Yeah. So I'm not in any way knocking Photoshop or saying that people shouldn't buy Photoshop. You should, as a digital painter, you should have Photoshop and you should know how to use it. It's just,
But
it's like I have a drill and I have a hammer and I'm not going to start nailing nails into the wall with the drill because I don't want to go pick up the hammer. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So that's my,
yeah. No, no, that's a good way to put it.
the Photoshop rant of the day, day.
Day. I love my soundboard.
I like it too. It's a good idea. We got a couple more questions. Jeremy Zook wants to know, how about making geometric patterns? What program should I use? And is it even possible in Corel Painter? I like to do stuff with sacred geometry slash flower of life.
Do you know I was going to say there's probably something out there that's specifically for geometric patterns. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I would say probably. Um, I don't know how familiar you are with Corel Painter, Jeremy, but there is the symmetry painting mode, and then
Yep.
there's the kaleidoscope mode, and
Yeah,
then
actually, yeah, the kaleidoscope mode in Paint. That I mean, I barely ever use it personally, but that will be absolutely awesome.
yeah, I'm doing a little doodle with it right now, so you can see I can make like a snowflake. I can change the amount of divisions if I want more or less divisions. I can even mix levels of symmetry. So I just made something that looks kind of like a sand dollar pretty easily. Um, if you want a little more control and you don't want to freehand draw it, you can use the vector shape tools, but honestly, Painter's vector shape tools are not that good. They're pretty primitive. And I don't even know that you can even make a polygon unless you manually draw it, because I don't think there's a polygon tool. I think there's only a rectangle and a circle.
Just to link this to our Photoshop rant,
Yeah.
you could use Adobe Illustrator, which I believe does have some, you know, that could do some pretty nice crisp shapes. But I'm not sure what in the way it has to any symmetry tools. You
You'd
could
have,
probably get third-party plugins.
yeah, you'd have to do the symmetry probably manually, but I know that there's a lot of
Yeah,
control over. Um, I believe you can duplicate something in a direction, so
yeah, you can duplicate in a direction or spin it and hold down Shift, so you've got kind of a lock on the rotation.
yeah, so you'd have to do it piece by piece. Do you want to draw it and let it happen naturally, or do you want to have to do the whole thing? And that's kind of what
Yeah.
what's going to happen. I know there were Photoshop plugins to make mandalas out of an image that worked really, really well, but it's so old that I don't even know that it works with the current version. Last I checked, I couldn't get it to work.
I just spent the past I just spent Monday and Tuesday working on a commission that I had to do in Illustrator
Yeah.
because the client wanted vectors, and that was fun. It's been a while since I did, you know, kind of like a solid job all in Illustrator.
I like Illustrator. It depends on the project, but I,
I wasn't being sarcastic. I had
oh
a
no,
lot
I
of
know.
fun.
I know. It's, it's a nice break from drawing things this way. It's a whole different way of drawing, and it's a whole different way of getting good at it, I guess. Um, but it's like it uses a different part of your brain almost. When you're drawing, but you're not drawing with the same intent and the same purpose. You have to. I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it. You have to like imagine what you're doing ahead of time, versus I think when you're digital painting, you can kind of go back and forth a little more freely.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
Jeremy says that they do use the kaleidoscope, but it's hard to make a perfect circle. It is indeed hard to make a perfect circle. I have a tip for you here, and this is just, I haven't done this before, but this is just me thinking off the top of my head of how you could make a circle. So you go to your kaleidoscope mode, you select your scratchboard tool, and you size it the diameter of the circle that you want, and then you tap and you hold. Oops, I'm using white. I need to select the right color here. Oh no, it's going all laggy now because I tried to use a big brush. Uh, I, no, that's weird because it's just the smooth scratch board, but it's because I'm streaming.
Yeah.
What?
Also, the size of your canvas can apparently affect that.
Yeah, it's 11 by 14, so that could be it. I'm going to make a smaller circle then. So you can see I made a little circle here using the brush itself to make a circle. So you just kind of tap and wiggle a little bit. And then what you could do is you could use, let's say, the eraser, or you can make a mask. For the sake of not wanting to crash my computer, I'm not going to make a mask or crash painter. I'm going to use the eraser. Same principle, just make your brush a little bit smaller, center it, and erase the center. And then you got a pretty dang good looking circle. Now, if you want your work to look a little more organic, there's nothing wrong with your circle being a little rough, you know? Because if you do it too perfectly, I don't know. If you want it to look that crisp and clean, you need to be doing it in Illustrator, I guess, is what I should say.
I do if I want really, really. Say if I'm drawing a mech or something.
Uh huh.
Sometimes what I'll do if I want it to look really, kind of spot on mechanical,
Mm hmm.
I'll sketch it out and then go into Illustrator, um, and then overdraw all the vectors and then copy and paste them back in.
Yeah.
But what I will do as well is I'll save that vector file just so I've got it on record.
Mm hmm.
And then that way, if a client wants anything changing, I don't have to redraw it all.
So you're doing a drawing in Vector and then you're bringing it into Painter? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I do that a lot for architecture. Anything that has straight lines, faces, stuff like that. Um, if I do need perfect shapes, yeah, I will do that. You could also just flesh it out in Painter. Do the reverse, sketch it in Painter. If your circles aren't perfect, take that, bring it into Illustrator, and just draw on top of it on layers with perfect circles. I mean, you could even do that here in Painter if you wanted to, using the circle tool. You just
Oh yeah.
you plot out where you want them to be. This isn't showing up very well. Let me make it bigger. Come on, oval. There we go. So you can see I got this green oval. I'll just place it, more or less over that spot, and then just keep duplicating it. And then when I'm done with that layer, I could erase it. So you got to think outside the box. There's always more than one way to do something, and if you can't do it more than one way within that application, there's probably another application or a combination of multiple applications that will give you the result that you want.
It's not just about having different ways of doing things, though. It's about the quickest way of doing something, especially if you're freelance.
Yeah, I agree.
You got to save time. You know, if you're, well, not just if you're freelance, but if you're working in a studio,
Mm-hmm.
if you get a job working in a studio, then you're going to have someone breathing down your neck at you all the time. You know, where's that job? I need you to do this. Once you're finished with that job, you got to move on to this other job.
Yeah.
And you're there just looking at them going, I need 2 days to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what do you mean give me half a day? When
Yeah.
am I supposed to go for lunch? Lunch? Crazy fool. We don't eat around here.
I've never responded well to that when people try to rush me on things.
No, neither have I, but unfortunately,
Yeah.
I've always had those kind of bosses.
Yeah, I think everybody has. It's
Yeah,
part of
exactly.
the good thing about working for yourself, rather than for an agency or a company is if you don't want to deal with stuff like that, you don't have to. You don't have to continue relationships with people who are irritating you. You can, focus more
I
time on clients that you that
exactly.
that that
I have used the words "never darken my door again" with a client. It didn't go down well, but I never heard from them again. So I class it as a win-win.
yeah. Yeah, I've definitely, there's definitely been people that I've worked for that I've liked better than others, but I've really kind of narrowed it down at this point to people that I like that are respectful of me and my time. And those are the people I'd rather be working for than, when I was advertising for graphic design, I'd get a lot of people who would be like, hey, I need you to do a logo. It should only take you an hour. I'm going to pay you,
Yeah.
$7 an hour to do it, and you have to get it done in 2 days. It's like, okay, well, good luck. Find somebody else because I'm not going to do it. But then there were other times starting out where I had to take stuff like that because I had to make money, and
Well,
you just kind
that's
of
the trouble, isn't it?
you have to deal with it sometimes, whether you want to or not. But I'm glad I'm at the point to where I don't have to do that because having to juggle that much mentally as a job. I mean, everybody's job is difficult. I get that, but trying to
Yeah.
think about 10 or 20 different projects creatively and stay interested in them and stay motivated to work on them is difficult because people don't ask you to do stuff that day and then you get it done the next day. There's a lot of back and forth with people, and sometimes people don't get back to you for a couple weeks, you know what I mean? Depending on the client,
Yeah,
and
it can
then
be torture.
not everything is just snappy, you know?
Artist Modera says, if you work for a studio, you don't have much choice what you draw. Yeah, you don't have any choice what you draw. When I worked for a studio, I was actually surprised a couple of times. First time I ever did anything for Marvel was when I worked for an agency. It was like, boom, here you go, draw Spider-Man, and I was like, yes, yes, awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it was like, yeah, cool, awesome. This is the first time I ever did any work for Marvel, so good things can come out of it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I spent, the rest of my agency life drawing utter crap that I hated.
Mm-hmm.
You know, no, I did some good jobs as well, but yeah, most of it was just like, why am I doing this? What is it again? Do I really care?
Yeah,
I
it's
I I get- I had a nice portfolio, but would I have really picked any of it? You know, paid the bills. That's really what matters.
yeah.
But now, I think the difference is if I would have been able to deal with the clients myself, I would have been able to say to them, this is what I think we should do.
Mm-hmm.
But the trouble was, because I wasn't talking to the clients, I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
So there was a middleman, and that middleman at the agency was making some ridiculous, stupid decisions because they weren't creative. That was the problem.
Yeah.
I had two or three people at the agency side making stupid decisions before any of the work even got to me. And then it was pretty much draw this exactly like this. You've only got this much time.
Yeah.
Be- You know, meanwhile, it'd been sat on their desk for 3 days.
It,
And it's just like, what?
it kind of strips away your integrity as an artist because then you're just a machine, you know what I mean?
Oh, that's all you are. That's all you are.
I mean, it's like that to a degree with commissions and graphic design as well, because some clients are more or less interested in creative control. But ultimately, I guess if you're working for yourself, you have some influence over the client. You know, hopefully they trust you enough for you to be able to say, look, that's a cool idea, but here's why I don't think it'll work. Here's why something else would be better and more in your best interest. You know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
if they disagree with you, then fine. At least you were able to present that, and you can feel better about that. But yeah, when there's a chain of command of bad decisions being made, and you ultimately are the one who has to do the work, and the work is a reflection of your talent and your ability, yet you've been handicapped or forced to do it a different way. That's kind of a hard thing to deal with as an artist.
I think that, you come out of it knowing that you did your best, but I think some people thrive in studios, some people don't, and it really is down to the kind of individual that you are as a person.
Yeah.
I'm okay in studios. I think my problem is that I don't like politics. Office politics really isn't good for me.
Hmm.
And that's the problem. In offices, there's a lot of politics.
Yeah.
And I can't play that game.
Yeah. I like to have my own space and do things my own way and be my own boss and do it just because then there's less. Yeah, you don't have to buy into those politics. You don't have to deal with all that extra crap that goes along with with doing things that way. And
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's even why I'm kind of phasing out commission. I'll still do commissions and I'll still do design work, but that's not going to
Yeah.
be my primary income. That's not going to be how I spend most of my time because I just don't like having to
Talk to people.
to talk to people or to yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I'll I have to talk to people because I have to talk to clients, to a certain degree, or not necessarily clients, but like, there's if I'm going to make money, I'm going to have to talk to somebody to some degree, but I don't want to have like coworkers and bosses and you know what I mean, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Other than that, I'm fine. I find socializing with, you know, people who I enjoy socializing with as clients, but um, that's because I've had my fill of too many bad experiences doing the graphic design thing and having to, you know,
No, I get that.
yeah. We got a question that we missed from Carrie Roos. Do you guys
I
ever?
thought there was a question further back, but
Yeah. Sorry, Carrie. Do you guys ever spend time experimenting with brushes you don't normally use, or just stick with the ones you use? I want to play with more brushes, but I don't even know where to start. There's just so many.
yes, I go out of my way to play with brushes I haven't used before. Piano keys. This is a painter brush. Piano keys I hadn't used before. I'm just gonna quickly grab it here. It's now in docked in my in one of my favorite brushes. Um, See that?
Yeah.
That's a weird brush. I went out of my way to find a space to use this, and I used it, and it's brilliant. Um, I used this on a portrait of somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I used this on their dress.
Yeah. Oh, I
For
could see
the
that.
Yeah.
It's
for
almost like,
the kind of texture.
yeah.
You can see this in on my portfolio on my website, lawrencemann.co.uk.
I think I I spent a lot of time making my own brushes, image host brushes. So in that sense, I experiment. But do I really get into the brushes? That I don't know. As a beta tester, I think you have an idea of what the new brushes are going to be, and you have a chance to try them out. And so I have, in that regard, tried out a lot of the brushes and experimented. But have I done it in a practical sense where I'm experimenting with something that I'll use in my daily workflow? Not so much. I think I have enough brushes already that do what I want them to do, that unless I need a specialty brush or unless I come across something new where I go, "Oh, this would be great for that purpose," I'm going to put that aside. I don't really experiment a whole lot.
That's when I did that, by the way, when we were beta testing,
Yeah.
because I was trying to. Do you know what I mean? When we're beta testing, obviously we're trying, aren't we, on purpose to do things that we've never done. So,
Yeah.
and sometimes you get a little annoyed at that because you're like, I just want to paint.
Mhm.
Just leave me alone. I just want to carry on as normal.
So I'm going to I think I'm done with this doodle of this weird two-legged squid with its beak broken off or whatever this is.
I can't wait to see that.
um
See, that's the thing, because I can't see what you're painting. Unlike everyone else, I have to tune in at the end.
Yeah. So I think what I'd like to do is maybe take some requests that I can combine together into a drawing. So feel free to comment, suggest objects, colors, textures, whatever you want to see. I'm going to kind of try to stray away from like fan art or anything that's too complex. So don't say like the Sistine Chapel or something because I'm not going to be able to
Yeah,
draw
we
that.
did that before.
Yeah. Um,
Been done.
something I can draw in a short amount of time, but I'll try to combine things together. And I'm also going to take a quick break here, so it's going to be all you for just a minute here. Is that okay? All right, I'll be
Yeah,
back.
it's cool. You do your bathroom thing. I'll just um, I'll just check out the comments here and see if anybody slags you off while you're gone. Quick, it's time to talk about Aaron, everybody. The blue black dress. Oh God. Um, I really did see that as blue and black, and I was just looking at it going, how can anybody see gold? But yeah, apparently my missus saw gold, and yeah, I got roasting for that. Really didn't get it. Really didn't get the whole thing. I mean, was I just being stupid? Or, I mean, what? That would explain it. Magic. Yeah. Melissa says, I think when you have some free time, it'd be great to experiment with some new tools. I agree. I do try and experiment with as much as I can. I never get time to show off exactly what I'm experimenting with, because a lot of the stuff that I experiment with is either beta testing stuff that I'm not allowed to show off, or it's like quite lately I've been recording stuff that I'm gonna show off soon on my channel. So I've been like recording something for an absolutely great little gadget that I discovered. And I ended up writing to the manufacturer saying, "Can you send me one to review?" And luckily they were really nice and they did, and they sent me one. And I'm reviewing it at the moment. And it's by a company called the Joy Factory. and they make this little. It's like an ergotron that I use on my Wacom. It's like this little arm that you attach to your desk, and then I can attach it to my Surface Pro. Um, yeah, it allows me to use my Surface Pro hands free, and that's brilliant.
And it has a drink holder.
So yeah, basically. So I'm gonna use that and do a review. So I've shot it basically. I just need to sit down and edit it. Do I build many brushes? I don't build many brushes. I have some brushes, but I don't build too many brushes. I tend to just adapt them and then let them sit there, and then I change them again and keep just changing them and changing them and changing them.
Do you use many image hose brushes? Custom
Any what?
image hose, image hose nozzles.
What's an image hose brush?
Okay, never mind then.
What?
Well, it's like you can make a stamp basically into a brush, and
Oh yeah,
then
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like a Photoshop type brush. You mean?
it is, except I feel like in Photoshop, well, does Photoshop have full color stamp brushes? Like let's say a pre-colored leaf on a tree, or does it
Yeah.
just choose whatever colors in your color picker?
Oh, just yeah, yeah, yeah. Just choose whatever colors there. Sorry, yeah,
Yeah, because these you could make, like, you could take a picture of your head and then cut out the background and make your head into a brush,
yeah,
or your
yeah.
name,
It uses
or
all of those colors.
yeah. So you can have it with the color already predetermined, or you can have it to where you can tint it. You can pick a
Is it
color.
just one color or though, or is it picking all the colors?
You can have the option to do either. So it can have predefined colors, or you can have it, like let's say teeth. You have a teeth brush or something. Um, they could be normal tooth colored, and then you could also put it like you could either use a layer to do it, or you could do it with the function of the brush where you make red teeth or blue teeth.
Yeah, I do remember. Yeah, I do remember playing with this.
Um,
Sorry, yeah,
but there's also a
yeah,
lot of
I do remember this.
control over how that stamp comes out of the brush. It can come out
Yeah,
in a
yeah,
row, or it can spray, and so
yeah, I
th-
do remember this.
I
And I liked it, but it's nothing I'd use.
yeah. Well, I kind of thought that too at first, like, but then I started to experiment a little more. I wanted a palette knife, like, that actually looks like thick paint that you would get from a real palette knife. And painters' palette knives, their default palette knives, are nothing like that. So I went ahead and experimented a lot with that, drawing different, because you have to actually build each frame, or each, you know, image that's in the brush, and you have to do it in such a way to where it comes out of the brush the way you want it to. But I eventually made my own palette knife that works the way that I want it to, that looks like, thick paint. And so I found in doing that you can really make that, the brushes you make don't all have to be photographs that you remove the background from. They can actually be painterly, like a lot of the default brushes.
Yeah, of
they're
course.
they're just a different kind of technology, I guess, is the way to
Yeah,
put it. So I like those a lot. And so when I'm experimenting, that tends to be more what I experiment with, as far as, like, you know creating brushes.
yeah. No, I always prefer to use the color from my color picker.
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of really have three avenues. You can predetermine the color, you can choose the color while you're painting, or you can paint it in grayscale and just tint over it.
Yeah,
So you have a lot of control. Um,
it's just for me, it's speed.
yeah. So I'm gonna make a little note here of the requests. I got one request, I think. Um, Sorceress. And then if I can get a few more requests, I'll add those to that drawing. Carrie wants to know. Oh, you already got that one. Building brushes. Um,
Yeah.
New Moon Gazelle says, greetings from Sweden. Hello, New Moon. Kobu Zero wants to know if you do a basic sketch before you start painting. If so, how detailed do you usually get?
Was that aimed at both of us, or
Yeah.
do you want to take that one first?
Yeah. I almost always do a sketch. In fact, yeah, probably. I'm gonna say almost always because I'm sure there's been times where I haven't. Like obviously, if I'm painting something abstract, you don't need a sketch. You do it. That drawing that I did at the beginning of the stream, I didn't use a sketch for. If I'm trying to draw something accurately or I'm trying to develop the idea over time, I'm going to need some sort of I'm going to need to lock down my ideas in some way or another, and so a sketch kind of helps to do that. This drawing that I'm going to do now, I will probably sketch out to some degree, because if it's going to be a sorceress and I'm going to need to, draw a body, for me it's easier to draw a body if I sketch it out first. So I guess it depends on the subject.
Yeah.
As far
You
as the
see,
and
go on.
as far as the detail, I don't do it very detailed, unless it's like a face or something.
Oops. Elbow.
How about you? Do you always do a sketch first?
Um, if I'm just doodling, then no. If I'm working, then yes. If I'm doing a commission, then there's a lot more than just the sketch. Before I do the sketch, there'll be kind of half a day or even a full day of research before the before even the sketch.
Yeah,
You know, there'll be a Skype call with the client, and then I'll go off and do the research. Um, and then there'll be an initial doodle, like a thumbnail, which will be um, kind of an inch wide by 2 inches tall. And then once I've kind of done, maybe a doodle or two doodles or three thumbnail doodles, and I'm happy with that, then I'll do the sketch. And the sketch could be kind of just really quick, or the sketch could be quite detailed.
yeah,
But that's because I don't want to do my illustration twice. If an illustration takes 2 weeks, I'm not doing it twice. So, but the good thing is, I very, very rarely do an illustration twice. And I very, very rarely make large amends to my illustrations. But that's because when I deal with my clients, there's a lot of back and forth communication.
yeah,
So,
yeah. I don't like to waste time, waste effort. So I usually try to, depending on what I'm doing, I usually try to do it the most efficient way possible. And a sketch is a good way to do things efficiently. I'm doing a sketch right now for my sorceress. Probably going to be horribly in proportion, but it's like you also have to, I guess you have to factor in how much time do you want to spend on something if it's a personal piece.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
if I were doing something with the amount of detail as what you're doing, I'd probably take up more than this whole session working on a sketch, to make sure that it's perfect, but this little improv drawing here is not going to get as much attention.
But
Um,
this guy was only ever meant to be a sketch.
yeah,
I never meant for this guy to be anything else, but he kind of was a sketch that I ended up drawing a little more on, and now I'm drawing a little more on him. I might do a little more on him in another live session. I'm not going to finish him today.
yeah,
But the good thing is, file size wise, I can't remember what he is, but I know he's 400 DPI. I can tell you that.
Why do you use 400? A specific reason, or just you just use different DPI?
Um, I used to just use 300 DPI all the time, but there was a reason for it at one point. Can't even remember what it was. Um,
Yeah, I just use 300. I'll use 150 if it's something really big, because I don't see the point in using so much. You can only look. You're not going to look at a big piece up close. You can zoom into it,
well,
but
I mean, my work, I like being able to tell my clients that my work can be printed off huge billboard size if they need to.
yeah,
I mean, a lot of my work, I do a lot of book covers, and a lot of authors do go to, book conventions and things like that. So it's nice for them to say, okay, I'm spending this much money, but, I can print that cover off as a banner or a stand. Because if they're sitting at a table and doing, talks and signings and doing, convention stuff, then they can have their cover printed up big behind them,
yeah,
and that makes a difference.
yeah. It adds value.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
and some writers like to just have it printed big and put on the wall at home for writing inspiration, because
Yeah,
a lot of authors like to um, have their cover done well before their book is finished as kind of writing inspiration,
mm-hmm.
which, all right, might sound a little odd having your cover done well before your book's finished, but like I say, it's good inspiration. They can look at that cover every day, and it keeps them going.
Yeah,
To see your main characters staring back at you.
mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, like you said, it's added value, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. And it
But
kind of sets you apart from other illustrators too.
yeah,
Because
it's nice when I'm on Skype with them and I can just turn my camera around and say, "Look, there you go. There's a couple of pieces of mine on the wall in here."
mm-hmm.
You know, that's that's how big it is, and look at the crisp detail. And they've already seen how detailed those pieces are on my website,
Yeah,
so they know how detailed my work is, and they can see that right there, printed up on my wall, and how big that is. Those pieces are huge.
mm-hmm.
So it's just one of those things. It's nice.
Let's see if we have any other questions here. Um, Adam's here. Hey, Adam. He changed to AB Creative though, so I remember you though, Adam, as both Adam and AB Creative. It wouldn't be a live stream without AB Creative.
No, but you're not gonna win anything today, sucker.
Does anybody else? Does anybody else have any requests to add to this? Like, if you want to pick a color of different things, I think you can see kind of what I sketched here.
Yeah, AB Creative. Do you want to pick a color just for old time's sake? Nobody else would get that, but well, apart from Artist Modra.
Thought I saw James here too. We appreciate everybody returning for our live streams, even if we are hassling you for being really good at guessing. Someone's got to be good at it though. That's I mean not that everybody isn't, but there's always going to be somebody who's the best of the best. We'll have to start having tournaments. Um,
Kerry says, where do we get our stuff printed? A lot of the time, because my clients can be in America. I'm in the UK, but my clients could be in America, in Australia, or anywhere. A lot of the time, I'll let my clients handle their own printing. Um, I'll really just go to my local printers. I have a good friend who'll do some printing for me, but um, really, you can just Google and just look up the Glieke printing.
Gicle.
Yeah,
Gicle.
um, Giclée. Yeah, if you want to pronounce it properly, Giclée printing.
I
It's
don't
a
even know if
French word.
I don't even know if that's right. It looks hard to pronounce. And I think it's an overly broad term. I think technically anything that you print, as long as you don't use the absolute worst materials like
Mm,
home printer paper, I think technically
yeah,
most things that you print that are digital are considered a gicle. So I think that's an overused term that almost oversaturates the market to a point to where stuff that you would want to weed out as being premium or made with quality materials is a little bit harder to find. But then on the
well,
other hand, it's like how much does it matter if you use this kind of canvas and this kind of, you know what I mean? Aside from archival or preservation issues.
yeah. I think basically, as long as you go for anything that's not going to fade in sunlight, So once you've got it on the wall, professional printing inks won't fade in the sunlight like your
Yeah.
home printer ink.
Yeah, and you can also get UV coating. Like most canvas prints
Hmm.
should have a UV coating on them, and if they don't, you can just get from the art store a can of UV varnish. Um, yeah, I mean the art and especially the digital art print market is something that seems kind of hard to get into. Like there's just so many people doing it, and the margin for profit is so low per print. You know what I mean? That I don't know if it's necessarily profitable. I'm sure it is for a lot of people or some people, but personally, I'm not making that much off of it. But I also don't put in as much effort into selling prints as I do making YouTube videos. But I have in the past. I set up a whole
Yeah.
Zazzle store. I've printed stuff out and put it up in galleries. I mean, I've put in minimal effort again doing that, but it's even if I sold everything that I printed out, and even if I sold stuff daily on Zazzle, it's like it's not that much money. If you're only going to get like $1 or something from a print, people aren't going to spend 100, 200, $300 plus shipping to buy a 40 by 60 stretch canvas thing that's print on demand because it's going to be really expensive. You could print it and stretch it yourself if you have all the stuff to do it, but then you have to do that, and you have to display it somewhere locally or pay to have it on Etsy. Then you have to ship it, to pay for shipping. You have to calculate shipping based on weight and location. It's a lot of work. So
A
that's
lot
why.
of galleries are really, I can't say racist, but whatever the term is, against digital artists.
They're mediaists. I don't know.
Yeah,
They're elitists.
they're snobbish.
Yeah. Well, it's because their whole thing, the way they get by is by following trends, which are determined by artists. So they're just leeching off of whatever's popular, and then as soon as digital art is the hip, cool thing, then they'll be all about it, and galleries will be filled with digital art.
Yeah.
because they're, I'm not saying everybody's a leech like that, because I'm sure that there's a lot of artist-owned galleries, but it seems to me like, they just go by what's hot in that location, or who has
Mm.
whatever reputation, and it's not everybody has a fair shot at getting into a gallery here in Seattle. Like, you can't just, I mean, all galleries are different, but there's galleries where you can't call them, you can't email them, you can't submit work. They just have to know who you are. It's kind
If
of
I was told by a gallery that I couldn't submit to them, I would email those every day. I'd be like there every morning, like, "Hi guys, how you doing? Just thought, it's that time of day again."
maybe that's what it takes, to get in. I don't know for sure. I mean, I'm not suggesting anybody should give up, because there's always a way to do it. If you have to do it in a more abstract way, and become well known to get in a gallery, then that's the way to do it.
Oh
But
no,
but
they would just be like a gallery for them and their friends. That's all it is.
yeah, it's like, but who are you serving? Are you serving the gallery owners? Is that the ultimate goal as an artist, is to appease gallery owners? Because that's not the only way, as you can see from what Lawrence and I are doing, that to exhibit your work and to get your name out there. You know, I'm sure as a local artist, people don't have any idea who I am. Very very few people could give a crap about what I do. But as a digital artist, I've made a name for myself. Not even necessarily as a digital artist, but as a digital artist slash YouTuber, because it's kind of the combination of the two that makes it work. Being a traditional artist on YouTube, I don't know, because I feel like that might be a little more. There might be a little more competition there.
Mm.
What do you think?
It's funny. I'm always surprised at how many traditional artists there are on YouTube.
Quite a few.
Yeah,
Well, it's easier
I
to get
mean,
into. You know,
even Imagine FX has like a permanent place for for traditional artists now, and it never used to.
well, because anybody can get a pen, pencil, paints. You don't have
Mm.
to invest as much money in it, I guess.
I think it's because a lot of 3D artists have taken up traditional art, because they can't do digital.
Yeah,
So kind of traditional art became popular with the 3D guys again.
yeah,
Things like life drawing became more popular again, and which was a bit weird in my opinion, but hey. Not the life drawing thing, but just the fact that traditional art became more popular.
yeah. It's a cyclical thing, and I think that that they both need to exist. All forms of art and media should exist, and there shouldn't really be like a dominant struggle between anything. Um, but
Well, art is art.
yeah,
I keep thinking I should learn 3D. I would love to learn 3D. Every now and again, every few years, I've installed the software, played with it a bit, and then gone, wow, this is way too hard, and uninstalled it.
yeah. I've dabbled with it. Um, I made a animation, and some little test animations in Maya. Um, Spent about a couple of weeks learning it, and spent another couple of weeks making it. And I thought it was pretty good, but it's pretty simple. But nevertheless, it was an animation with voices and backgrounds and everything.
See, the
Um,
fact that you got that far is awesome.
yeah, and then I've done some sculpting with the online program Sculpt GL, which is just, it's like a free sculpting program. It works with your pen pressure on your Wacom tablet, and you basically just get a sphere, and then you can start sculpting it. And I got pretty far. I actually did a video on it where I sculpted just kind of like an alien head and Alien, of
That's
course,
cool.
because it was really hard to use the tools to like get a, you know, I don't
S-
I don't know the process that you start with from primitive shape to full on head. You know, there's got to be a way to do it.
Someone was telling me last night about I went to a networking thing last night, and someone was telling me about a program called 3D Coat,
Haven't heard of that.
and that is a 3D modeling program built. Well, I don't know if it's built for, but the person who was telling me about this was a 2D artist who converted to 3D,
Hmm.
and they were saying that this program is awesome for would be awesome for me as a 2D artist.
You know, I think
Because realistically, I think that all 2D artists like us, I think within the next 10 years, we'll have to learn 3D. You know, it's like we'll all have to be on YouTube.
yeah. Well, I think the skill set has some overlap because I've learned a lot from 3D modeling. You know, just for what I've done to dabble in it, that's helped me with digital painting, and things that I know about painting have helped me with 3D modeling. I mean, things I learned about photography and photo editing, I use for digital painting. So
Exactly.
the more skills you have, the
The
more,
better.
yeah, you know, I feel like, you know, you can never learn too much. On the other hand, there's only certain things I want to learn, you know, or that I want to occupy my brain and
Oh
my
yeah, I'm
mind.
I'm I'm the same. I'm like a grumpy old man. I don't really want to learn anymore, but I know it's better if I do.
Yeah, I mean more so like not necessarily occupying your brain with knowledge, but filling your brain with stuff that's just a distraction, like cable TV. Like I don't have cable TV. I don't listen to the radio. I don't get ads
There's
and
me not visiting your house.
I don't I
No
don't you,
cable.
I don't hear commercials. You know, I don't have people trying to sell me stuff. I don't. I'll watch the Democracy Now, which is like a free online non-commercial news thing.
Yeah, so
So
at least you're getting Donald Trump.
yeah, so I get my daily share of Donald Trump, but you know, I don't have all these distractions and things. I don't play video games. I don't really. I'll watch movies occasionally and like documentaries and stuff on Netflix, but
Yeah.
I don't want to fill my brain with too much extra crap so that the things that
No,
I'm
I'm the
really
same.
interested in that I want to get better at, I can think about more often or I can spend more time doing. And that's different from my old habits because I used to think that I couldn't live without cable. That would be horrible. What would I do all day, you know? I'd be so bored.
Yeah,
But
well, maybe you could draw. How about that?
yeah, or do a live stream or make a video and I found that I actually enjoy being productive more than I enjoy you
Sitting
know,
on your ass and watching telly, yeah.
and being like, yeah, when's, you know, oh, this season of The Walking Dead is over. Well, I really want to see the next one. Gee, I guess I'm going to have to wait, you know, and be at the mercy of AMC.
ABC, yeah.
No, I don't like that. So if I watch TV, you know, it's like, you know, reruns of stuff, old TV shows and
I've been watching stuff while I work, and I normally listen to a lot of audiobooks, but I've been watching far too much telly while I work. I need to knock that on the head.
is it distracting or you just kind of have it in the background?
I just kind of have it in the background, but it's still a bit too distracting. So it needs to get knocked on the head.
What about music?
Music's okay. I have a playlist on YouTube though for music because I only want certain types of music.
Yeah.
Music without lyrics because I find music with lyrics can be a little distracting
Hmm.
because you might be like, well, I don't want this song at the minute, or
Yeah, that's
you
true.
kind
It's
you it kind of pricks your ear up, and you're like, oh no, don't want this.
yeah, I find myself doing that a lot.
But if it's kind of classical music, you don't do that so much. Classical music, you just let it play. Same with soundtrack music.
Yeah, I have kind of a mix of a lot of different things, different genres. Not a whole lot of classical, more, you know, more like like modern music. But that does happen a lot where I'll be listening to something and then because I'll just have it on shuffle a lot of the time, and then
Yeah, I'm the same, but
something will come on, and then I'm like, I don't want to hear that, and I'll find that I'm like skipping and skipping.
yeah, but that's distracted you right there
Yeah,
from what you're doing, from your
definitely.
painting. So, so I've created like a YouTube playlist called Music to Draw To, and it's just largely it's soundtrack music and classical music, but none of it's got lyrics in.
Yeah.
Um, and it's all just stuff that I can paint to. But I find that I only ever listen to it while I paint.
Mm-hmm.
Never listen to it any other time really.
Yeah, I like having music on. There's sometimes where it's if I'm writing or something, I can't really have it on because then I have to be listening to myself in my head. If I have
Yeah,
lyrics and stuff going on, there's not enough room in my brain for all that.
yeah. I normally like dead silence when I'm writing.
Yeah.
If I'm concentrating on an email, if I'm trying to get money out of someone,
Mm-hmm. We got
give me your cash.
we got some comments to catch up on here. Kobu Zero says, I think a lot of people have a misconception about digital art because we can easily erase something if we mess up, unlike a traditional artist who can potentially ruin a canvas or entire piece.
No, traditional painters can undo things as well.
Yeah, you can. It's you don't get a perfect, pristine, clean undo, but people will
Yeah.
think about all the master painters and how they X-ray their paintings and they see that underneath they did this or that or it's an entirely different painting. That's an undo. That's a classical undo right there. It's a big undo. Like you got to go over and you got to start over from scratch, but you're still maintaining what you learned from having done it the wrong way. You're still maybe ending up with an underpainting. To some degree, you're not starting over from scratch. An eraser is a good example of an undo. You can erase with a pencil. So it is a misconception. Um, I think digital artists know very well that you can mess up a digital piece too. Messing something up
No,
often
but
come.
I didn't even mean like that, Aaron. I meant when you paint it with oils, and I used to paint with oils all the time. Yeah,
Yeah,
we had a rag cloth, and if you painted with oils and you messed up, you just used to take your rag cloth and push down hard and just kind of pull away like a flick. You used to kind of flick your finger down and away,
yeah,
and you could pull off the oil that you just put on.
yeah. So that's kind of an undo.
And that's yeah, exactly. You could just wipe off the oil that you just put on.
Yeah, I know
You
that.
can't do it with all mediums, but with oil you can. With watercolor, you just put on more water, and you
Eric.
can, rub a dry brush over the top of it, and that's like an eraser for watercolor.
Yeah, in acrylic, it's easy enough just to paint over it in that one area.
Yeah, because it's dry in seconds.
Yeah,
But the trouble is as well that people have this real misconception that we have some kind of magic big button that says, it's like right now that people think I have a button that says draw teeth.
but you do.
Oh yeah, there it is. I don't, it's weird that they think the computer's doing it all.
Yeah. Well, then
But
if the computer's doing it all, then the natural media bristle brush that you're using when you're oil painting is doing it all, and your watercolor paper is doing it all because it's absorbing the watercolor, and your gesso's doing it all because you have to gesso your canvas.
It's funny that they never made this assumption though that when authors changed over to using computers rather than typewriters.
Oh, I'm sure they did to some degree. They did it with photographers
Yeah,
to
yeah.
the to
When
this
they
date.
switched over to using digital cameras.
I'm sure. No, for people who were portrait artists complaining that photography itself as an art form, as a new art form, was illegitimate. So
Oh
that,
right, right. Sorry. Yeah.
um, and then with music, digital music, people are still against that. I have my qualms with some of that stuff to a degree, and how it's
Yeah, but isn't that
used.
the artists complaining
Yeah, it's
because they think they're being ripped off and stolen from?
to me it's more of like the auto tune thing. Like I see the point in having tools to correct mistakes, like the eraser. If you mess up a line, that's fine. You use the eraser and you clean it up. I don't have anything that's like that's like a full auto tune. Well, I guess in a way cloning is kind of like auto tune. Like you can totally just not even
Well, no, because we've got the auto trace.
the auto trace. It's like it's doing something for
Yeah,
you to the degree that it's doing more than you're doing. You know
yeah,
what I mean? And at that point, like I don't mind if autotune is used to fix a couple of notes or something that artist could easily go back and
yeah.
fix if they wanted to spend the extra time, but they're not going to. But if the whole damn song is auto-tuned to where it's just
Yeah,
like that person can't even sing the song live and have it sound anything like that without using autotune, then there's not
yeah.
a whole lot of artistic integrity there in my
But
opinion.
with music, you don't get, or I've never seen a, a singer put up something that is comparable to. I've seen loads of people put up an auto traced photograph, and say, "Hey, look at the painting I've just finished." And it's just like, you've just auto traced a photograph. You
If
cheating little git.
I think if you say, "Hey, look at the auto traced or the check out the photo manipulation that I did," or if you class it as what it is, I don't have a problem with that at all. I
Yeah,
don't have a
but
problem.
people don't. People say, "Look at the painting I've done," and they
Yeah,
stick up an auto traced photograph, and that does get my goat. I have to say, I always feel like pulling them on it, but I never. I mean, obviously, wouldn't. I'm more professional than that.
I think what bothers me more than people doing it, which I understand why people do it. I played around with it at first when I was getting into digital art because I didn't know any techniques. I didn't have any idea how to get started with it, and that was the easiest thing to do. But what irritates me the most is that I know that people can do it without having to rely on that, and people get stuck in this mentality and defending using it as something creative. There's nothing wrong with that because it is its own creative media. But if you're saying I can't paint, I can only clone, you're setting up a big roadblock for yourself, because I know for a fact I've seen people do it, tons of people who think that they can only clone and they can't paint. Then they take the time to learn a few techniques, and then all of a sudden they can paint from scratch.
Huh.
So,
If you can paint a circle, if you can paint a straight line, if you can paint a triangle, you can paint anything.
yeah,
It's just techniques. That's all it is. It's just
yeah,
practice and technique.
yeah, and I think people shouldn't give up so soon.
No. You just got to put the time and the effort into learning. But that's the whole point of us doing tutorials and things like that. Oh God, there's a giant comment.
Oh yeah, we still got a lot of comments. We've got a lot of replies to what we were talking about digital art versus people's opinions on it that or possibly
We should
misconception.
get somebody to come in with us and do the comments.
Yeah.
Like one time, we should get like you know somebody to come in and help us.
Okay, I think the one that's actually a question, because everybody can see the comments, so I won't read those out because there's a lot, but that's some great comments from everybody there. Kobu Zero says, "Do you think that practicing art via fan art and things you see on TV isn't as helpful as practicing things that are your own ideas?"
No, I think it's fine. Whatever you're practicing, whatever makes you happy, draw it.
Yeah,
I think fan art is perfectly valid. I do not do it myself because I like to exercise my own imagination.
it's cool.
Um, but I am not having a go at anybody who draws fan art because I like to look at fan art, and I think if you want to draw fan art, blow your own socks off.
Yeah, it comes down to personal preference, I think.
Yeah. I just don't want my portfolio to be full of fan art because that's not what I want to show my clients.
Yeah.
That for me is my personal choice.
It's the same thing with the cloning and the auto painting too, like I don't mean to knock it cuz you do whatever you want to do. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, no,
it's
I agree with that. But you're not going to get better by using the auto clone.
I think anybody can do it. I think anybody can paint and anybody can be creative. If that's something that you want to do, you can do it. If you don't care about art, and you don't care to learn how to paint, or you don't desire to want to learn how to paint, fine. You're never going to learn how to do it. But if it's something that you want to do, that's really the only step that you need to take. Everything else is pretty easy to figure out. It seems like something that's very difficult to do, and we make it look easy, but that's because it's something that we've been interested in for a long time, and we've spent a lot of time trying to get good at, or just getting good at it naturally by doing it a lot. I mean, like I said earlier, I've seen people who tell me before they take a tutorial or take a course that they can't paint. They've never been able to paint, they've never tried it, and then they take a course or they take a tutorial, and then all of a sudden they can do what I can do. So
Then
that's how Lawrence and I learned. What were you gonna say?
well, all children can draw, and all children start off the same. I mean, most kids stop drawing. Me and Aaron were those two kids that carried on drawing, you know, and we just carried on practicing and carried on learning the techniques from other people and learnt new techniques from other places, and we've been teaching other people techniques, and you know, and, and you just have to relearn the things that you've lost in a way.
Yeah.
But it's not that hard once you get into it.
And it's not like you have to spend your whole life doing it. That doesn't hurt, but there are people who, what was it like? Grandma Moses didn't start painting till she was, 80 or something, and is, an accomplished painter and well-known artist. There's a lot of people who, you know, who don't get into it until later in life, and then they get really good at it. So, later in life, if you have months, days, years, whatever to spend doing it, that's fine. You'll learn a lot in that period of time as long as you're absorbed in that.
She's not the one that scribbled over that picture of the saint, is she?
No.
Do you know who I mean?
Yeah, that was funny.
That was brilliant. I love what she did.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it, she ended up making that church a boatload of money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because the amount of people who came to see it.
Well, it's like who knows what those people look like anyways. They're all made up pictures from, you know, somebody's someone had an
I
agenda with.
highly doubt they look like that
No, but I mean, you're talking about a you know, I mean, well, everybody has different opinions, but I consider most of these people to probably more or less be fictional. You know, they might not even exist, and people argue
Yeah,
over
exactly,
people
exactly,
argue over what they really looked like. It's like you're arguing over, you know, what Bigfoot looks like, or you know, the Loch Ness monster looks like.
exactly. Well, I was going to say, you know, I'm guessing a lot of our viewers are American, so maybe we should, you know, we might want to be careful, you know, if we might have some religious people watching. But then again, I realized I'm drawing the devil, so
Yeah, dude, you're drawing the devil. Well,
ta-da!
and I think it's we live in America, but it's important to point out that America's not a Christian country. There's people of all different belief systems here, and I think it's fair for those people to be able to express those
Really, you
beliefs.
you don't think America's a Christian country?
No, there's Christians here, but there's, you know, um, th-
It's founded on Christian beliefs.
eh,
Your
it is
constitution's Christian.
it is, but I mean, I don't know. I don't. I'll if if I go into my you know, my rants, then I'll offend a lot more people than just
No, no,
Christians.
no, that's fine. That's fine.
But
But it's like Britain's the same in
uh,
that respect.
I think that's a misconception, and I mean, it's not a misconception that it was founded, but what is America? You know, is America Christians who came over and, you know, I mean, you got to look at it like this: like the people who lived here first, they don't believe in any of that stuff, and the people who came over as immigrants who are part of America don't believe all of that stuff. You know, so I think
Ah,
America
well, no, no. Now you're absolutely right. Sorry.
America is it represents it doesn't it should represent everybody fairly, and everybody should be able to believe whatever they want to believe. However,
Well, I wasn't on about originally.
yeah,
I'm on about legally,
it's very
technically.
it's very unnecessarily biased towards Christians, I think, and
Yeah,
I don't think that that's fair to the rest of the population because they're not they're not
I'm on about um, court of law. Do you see what I mean?
yeah. Yeah, if I mean it's on our money, you know, it's definitely there, but
Yeah.
you know, I don't know that I
If you
necessarily support that.
if you're talking about the majority,
Yeah, but you know,
I,
that's the good thing about, I guess, about having your, you know, I wouldn't say I worry about that kind of stuff, but I'm concerned that expressing my opinions on things that could be sensitive,
no,
it could turn off a few people, but I think for the most part,
Sasha,
my you know, when people watch me, I want them to understand that I'm a real person and that I have, you know,
you're allowed your opinion.
I'm about more than just Corel Painter and Wacom tablets, you know, and there's people who will identify with that and agree, and there's people who will disagree, and you know, if anybody disagrees to the point to where they'd rather not learn about art in order to, you know, not have to listen to me disagree with things, then I don't know. I mean, that's a choice that people have to make, but I don't think I've ever
I
had
don't think you can worry about that.
I don't think I've ever had anybody leave me negative comments or anything because of anything that I've said that's politically charged. It's usually like, you know, they didn't like something I did in a video. I mean, my drawing wasn't
I was just about to say,
it
yeah,
didn't
you got far more things to worry
or
about than that.
or my review was, you know, not what they agreed with. But, you know,
Yeah,
um this always turns into like me getting on my soapbox and not drawing.
don't worry about it. I mean, let's face it. At the end of the day, you know, everybody has their own political views.
Yeah.
Everybody knows what they believe in, and yeah, I mean, so what if people don't agree with your own? You know, that's the great thing about opinions. Everybody has one.
Yeah.
You know, they're a lot like something else.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always been quite political, and yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. I think more people should be,
It's a
and that, if anything, is the problem.
yeah, it's a particularly sensitive time too for America with the upcoming elections and all the all the racially biased stuff that's going on.
I know it's like a year-long comedy festival over there.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with people being Christian and believing in Christian faith. I think if you're going to do that, follow the damn book. And it
I
doesn't
thought
say
you were going to say just do it somewhere else.
no, like follow what's in the book. I'm pretty sure Jesus wasn't going around killing people
Yeah,
because of the
the only
color of their
trouble is
skin.
there's about 10 different versions of the book.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, if that's what you're gonna base your base your life on, like you should be helping people, not turning people away or you know putting people at a disadvantage because they're not exactly like you. That's it's not at all. It doesn't say anything like that in the Bible. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it does. I've never read it, but
Yeah.
um, if people would better represent their faith and not elect leaders who make a mockery of it and use it to basically gain money for themselves and put people at a more of a disadvantage, including Christians, uh, I wouldn't have such a problem with it. But the problem is, it's been turned into this like it's intertwined in politics. It's not really a religion. It's for a lot of politicians, it's a way to get votes and to make money.
Yeah.
So let's
I, I I have noticed that all of the politicians kind of heavily avoid religion, you know, talking about it.
no, not
But
not
all of them like to say how religious they are.
oh, I don't know. I think Donald Trump's not really getting into that, but you got like Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio who are pretty much
Oh,
pretty much
Trump
wanna
won't say anything on a topic other than the topics he's already talking about, if you get what I mean.
yeah.
He likes to repeat what he's saying, but he won't talk about anything else that anybody's asking him.
Well, he doesn't have to do anything. He's a
Oh, you mean
billionaire.
because he's floating so high on the verse?
Yeah, he could just do whatever he wants. He can't do any wrong. He can say anything he wants. He can do anything he wants, and
Yeah,
that says something.
yeah. I mean,
But
look at the polls.
yeah, I think a lot of that stuff is just it's kind of a joke in a way. It's like people are going to express their interest in him, but when it comes down to like actually going out and voting, are all cause how hard is it to like to fill out a poll online? People are going to do that. Are those same people going to go out and vote? I mean, obviously they've caucused and he's gotten some support that way, but I mean, the
I
people
don't know if you watch the rallies, there are a lot of people there.
there are, but I mean, it's almost in a way kind of pretty divided and pretty polarized. It's like whoever's going to vote for Trump is definitely not going to vote for a Democrat, and vice versa. And really what it's
Yeah,
coming down to is people fighting amongst the parties, themselves, like, which Republican are we going to pick or which Democrat are we going to pick? And that's kind of what's going on now with Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton. The positive, the
Hillary
positive,
Clinton.
the
No.
only positive thing about Trump is that it's interesting to see that Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump, who aren't establishment politicians, are getting so much support. Like it shows that that's what people want. That doesn't necessarily mean
Yeah,
that they want specifically Donald Trump. They don't want an establishment candidate as a Republican, and that's pretty much all that's left, besides him.
yeah. It shows you who they trust
Yeah.
or who they don't trust. It's kind of bad, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's worrisome, you know. Because if he really was president, I mean, you know, anything goes.
Well, at least you'll be able to get an open visa to go to Russia whenever you want.
Yeah, I'm close to Canada. Probably move there. I like the new Canadian Prime Minister. He's a good example of what leaders should be. I mean, he hasn't been around that long, and then, you know, I can't say I know him personally, but everything he's done since he's gotten into that position has been trying to fix relationships with people or trying to take care of his own people and people in other countries, and just seems like a nice
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah, everyone seems to like him.
Let's see if we can answer some more questions here.
I was just about to ask
This
what
is
else
this
is.
is turning into like Fox News or something. Or it's like it's suddenly become a politics podcast, which is probably what people probably want to watch people draw and not
Well,
listen
we
to.
are drawing at the same time.
Yeah.
At least we haven't stopped drawing and just turned on the cameras to have a go at people.
Mm-hmm.
What's your opinion, people?
Jeremy says this might be a dumb question, but I've been using Corel Painter to figure out schemes for my acrylic paintings. I usually take a picture of my painting and then I'll put it in Corel Painter and work on it. My question is, how do I get a color library from the image I put in Corel? I know there's a way to do it, but when I try and make a library from a layer, I only get a couple colors and they aren't even any of the colors in my image.
Yeah.
Do you want me to answer
Yeah,
that
you
one real
check.
quick? So there's a way to load in an image and extract a color palette from it. And there's a tolerance slider. You can say set it to 16 and it'll take out 16 colors. But every time it picks a color out, no matter what you set it to, those colors are arbitrary. You, as the artist, probably have an idea of what colors you actually want from that palette by looking at it. And the computer can't really determine that for you because it's kind of subjective. So, what I would recommend doing is rather than having it automatically pick the color palette for you, just go into your um, place your artwork within your, or place your painting within your document, and then just go through and just sample using the color sampler those colors, and on a separate layer make swatches, little blobs of color, little blobs of paint. That way you can go through and you can pick out which colors from that palette you want, and then you'll have them there on screen. So
I thought you were going to know some super um, complex way of doing that because I was thinking that out in my head and thinking, no, I couldn't think of a better way of doing that. And I thought, do you know some way that I don't? Um, the only thing I'll add to that is maybe use the mixer palette, that palette there,
yeah,
and lay your colours out in that.
yeah, that's true. And then they don't have to be in a separate layer.
Yeah,
I just the thing I don't like
I
about the thing I don't like
I
about the
barely ever use that palette, as you can tell.
yeah, the thing I don't like about the mixer is unless you put a very solid opaque color on there, you might get a little bit of the a fade into the other color or the fade into the palette itself. And so I'd like to
Yeah.
know definitively that the swatch that I put down is exactly that color. So I would use the scratch board because that's, you know, a nice opaque brush.
No, it's
Uh,
fair enough.
yeah. But I don't.
It's a horses for courses. I mean, it
Yeah.
depends what you like. Some people, like I say, I don't really like the mixer, but I've noticed some people, even painter masters, really liking the mixer.
Yeah. Oh yeah. People love that thing, but I hardly ever touch it, if at
Yeah,
all.
I can't. I'm not a giant fan of it.
I don't. I like to mix color as I'm working or after the fact with the brush stroke or with a blender. I don't like to I don't like to pre-mix ranges of color because
I'm exactly the same.
like
Just as you see me working here, I need to do it on the go.
yeah. And it's easier for me to pick from the color triangle and the hue ring to get exactly the color I want than to try to guess and hope that whatever I'm picking in the mixer is actually the color that I want.
Yeah.
So, but that's the good thing about Painter is like there's so many different options that you can fit just about any workflow or anybody's preference. Um, Thomas Hjorth says they'd really like to do an auto trace or clone a Ferris wheel right now, but their inner artist won't let them, which they're thankful for. They accept people who do trace or clone, but where's the challenge in it? It has a challenge, and that's being a like if you've ever cloned anything. Let's say if I tried to auto clone this face that you're painting, I'd have to do brush strokes for everything, like and you're doing that now, but you're doing it in a way that's spread out over time, and you're using big brushes and you're building things up in an organic way. When you're cloning, you're going over the whole thing and just doing strokes over a photo. It's tons and tons and tons of the same brushstroke over and over again. And what you end up
Yeah.
with is after a few hours, your hand is like a claw. It hurts. It's like because you've been doing basically the same grip and the same stroke
Yeah.
over and over and over again. And then your artwork reflects that too. You can see a cloned piece because it looks cloned. There's really no way to disguise that. Um, it's
Well,
it's
couldn't
almost
you disguise it by because your Wacom has tilt on it. I know your clone is only using the one brush,
yeah.
but wouldn't even the tilt on the brush disguise that a bit?
I don't know. I just think like when I see your piece now, I see areas of flat color. I see big, broad, smooth gradients that are
Yeah.
overlapped
Oh yeah, the brush size would
by
yeah,
fine.
kind of
You know
give
what I
it
mean?
away.
Like, and if you're so good at cloning that you're building things, you know what I mean? If you're going through all of the effort to make a cloned piece look like an organic piece, it would probably take you less time just to paint it organically. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's really not easier to clone. It's easy to auto paint because you just sit back and you let it happen, but when you really get into like super detailed cloning,
I
it's
have to say, when we were doing the sorry for cutting you off, um, when we were doing the beta testing,
uh-huh.
um, and when we, you know, during the beta testing, obviously I tested out the because you try to use every aspect of the program, even
Yeah.
aspects you wouldn't normally use. So, we do test out things like the auto paint. And I will say there is something incredibly relaxing about sitting back and just watching auto paint do its job. Because it's like watching a speed painting.
Yeah.
But, you know,
But it's
when I've put in a piece of my own work and then let auto trace go over the top of it, and you're seeing it trace a piece of your own work, there's something really relaxing about that. And then watching it do something absolutely horrible with it, you're going, ah.
I feel like the strokes it makes are kind of arbitrary though, like it's not when you're painting your mustache, your brush strokes are curving in the direction of the mustache. They're going all the way from the upper lip, curving around and doing almost a spiral. When the auto painting paints that mustache, it's just going to do random like cross hatching stuff, you know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
dabs. And a dab and a cross hatch is not the right brushstroke for the majority of a painting. A painting needs broad and fine detail, and it needs the perfect balance of both. And that's something that's again subjective. Each artist will do that a different way, but a computer doesn't know what it's looking at yet. Maybe if they change that someday, and a computer can make subjective decisions and base its
Then
decisions
we'll be
on
out of a job.
then we'll be out of a job. Yeah, then you literally will go to a computer and you'll type devil face, and the computer will go, and all of a sudden you'll have a painting, and then you'll go, oh, actually, let's make it blue, and then it'll change it to blue, and
Yeah. I'll just give it my reference images from Pinterest and
yeah.
go, there you go, give me a devil
Yeah,
face.
and then you and I'll be like 80, and we'll be sitting at home with our old vintage Intel Pentium 14 laptops, being like, back in my day, we used to have to draw this with a tablet.
I like your 80-year-old voice. That was awesome. I remember when I used to live in the UK. That place sucked balls. It was cold as shit.
That's exactly what we're gonna be like when we're 80. That Donald Trump's been
Trump's
president for too
president.
long. Um,
God. And I know I just swore. I'm sorry, everyone.
it's okay.
But it was
I,
comedy.
I, I just offended every Christian in America and every Republican, so
Yeah, what's worse?
I think I'm well ahead of you. Um, Hopefully not. That's not my intention, is to offend anybody. I'm just just talking.
Oh, thank you, Thomas. He says nice teeth. I
Um,
wasn't sure how they'd turn out until I just zoomed out right then.
yeah.
The gums actually look okay. They don't look as bad as I thought. He needs lips now, though.
AB Creative says, Aaron, you have one video that was very controversial and made me stumble a little, but you've never offended me. I'd be interested to know what that video was.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what that is as well.
My guess would be either there's the Wacom alternatives that people don't like. I did one on marijuana and misconceptions about it that might have offended some people.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
I remember that one.
yeah, it was uh, people get the misconception, I think, that, well, there's multiple misconceptions, but if you're a quote unquote stoner, that you're not going to be productive and you won't do anything. You'll sit on the couch all day, and it'll just ruin your life. And then there's the other side where people think that if you smoke pot, you're suddenly going to be super creative and have a ton of ideas, and none of those things are necessarily true. I think it depends on person to person.
Well, I was just about to say I live in the UK and it's illegal over here, so I wouldn't know because I've never smoked it.
Yeah.
But then again, no, I have smoked it because I went to Amsterdam once. So yeah, I've only ever smoked it once.
Yeah, here in Washington, Oregon, Alaska, um, and Colorado, perhaps other places, it's legal for,
Yeah,
if it's like if you're getting alcohol or cigarettes.
that's
Um,
awesome. That they're the places I'm moving to.
yeah, and then many other places, it's legal for medical use and less strict. So that's something that's kind of changing here in America, is people's opinions of that. Um, let's see if we have any other questions here.
Is it legal for epileptics?
For what?
Epileptics.
It was probably, yeah, medical's probably applicable to that, I would think. I
Because
don't
I
know.
have epilepsy.
I don't know for sure. And I think it's
So,
applicable to a lot of things, like probably anxiety and insomnia and things like that too. But I don't
cool.
know. I don't know that for sure. So
Because I've got epilepsy, so I just wondered if it was,
could be.
you know.
Um, let's see. Oh, okay. AB Creative says it's the pot one. It's viewed so differently here to here to the U.S. Yeah, I mean, again, that's kind of one where I thought about it, and then I'm like, well, that's definitely going to polarize my audience, but I don't think that polarization is necessarily such a bad thing, because I think, like Adam said, it offended him to a certain, or it didn't offend him, but he didn't necessarily agree with the message, yet he was able to look beyond that and you know, look at the other 99.9% of my channel, which is not about drugs or politics or religion, and is basically about drawing and having fun. So hopefully most
I
people
think
feel
you
that way
need to
too.
be opinionated.
You do, and it's something that comes up too, you know. Like I think in that video I was definitely biased to a certain degree, but I didn't make the video and say, "Yeah, dude, smoke a bunch of pot and you'll have all these great ideas," you know. It was like I don't know, you know. I can't speak for everybody and say this is what effect it will have on you. I'm just saying from my personal experience,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
these are the benefits to it in my opinion, creatively. So,
I went with my mother-in-law to Amsterdam. Well, when me and my wife got engaged, my mother and father-in-law um, took us all to Amsterdam,
uh-huh.
kind of to celebrate. And we went over there and we went into a cafe while we were over there. You know, all the cafes over there obviously sell pot.
Yeah.
So you know, we all had a joint while we were over there, and that was pretty awesome. But I think I was fine with it. You know, it's not as if I hadn't done anything before, and but yeah, I think not everybody had a great time on it.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the weird thing about the cafe is like then you have to be, I guess it's like a
Oh, their
bar.
stuff was super strong.
Yeah, you have
Their
to be
stuff
there in
was
public, and
ridiculously strong.
you know, I think using it for recreational purposes, that's one thing. I wouldn't say that that's, you know, necessarily what I would recommend people do with it. I think occasionally as a creative person, you're trying to get out of a certain mindset. You're trying to think about things differently. You're trying to make observations about mundane things. Like when you go outside and you're completely sober and you look up at a cloud, you're probably just going to see a cloud, right? And you're going to be like, it's just a cloud. But if you're a little bit stoned and you go out and look at a cloud, you're going to be like, hey, man, check out that cloud, dude, far out. And like, you'll see something about it that makes sense that never stood out to you before, and that observation will stick with you, you know. Or maybe you'll look at something and you'll see it in a completely abstract way, you know, that
But
you
who
would.
was it? Who was it? Which famous artist was it who used to drink absinthe?
Oh, probably a lot of them.
I'm just trying to think of a particular one now, because there was one artist who used to drink absinthe for that exact reason.
Yeah, well, I know a lot of artists do drugs and they're fine and they're functional people who live long lives, and there's a lot of artists who do drugs and die young and completely ruin their lives, but pot's not one of those drugs, you know.
No,
You know, I make sure to say in the video, you know, don't go out and do a bunch of cocaine and heroin and drink a bunch of alcohol and stuff, because yeah, that stuff's going to have a negative impact on your life more than a positive one. But you know, marijuana kind of has a bad rap, and I think
it's a
if
non-addictive. Well, yeah, it's a non-addictive drug, isn't it?
if you're going by what you've heard and what you've read, that's not really fair. I think if you've had a personal experience with it that's been negative, or you've known people who have had negative experiences with it, then I think it, you know, it makes sense that you might be a little wary. But if you're going by what, you know, by what the government tells you, or you know, whatever, it's like they're all for alcohol and tobacco. Why is that not a problem? Why are opiate pills not a problem? Because it's a profitable thing for them, and they're going to tell you
Taxation.
there's yeah, and they can tax alcohol. Like
Yeah.
why is it fine to go out and drink out? Like what does alcohol do? Have you ever gotten drunk and like made a painting? Is that something you even want to do? I'm asking you, like you personally.
Oh, have I?
Yeah.
Nope.
I don't think, you know, I just it's like when you get drunk, you just, you don't want to do anything productive. And so, for them to be so against things that enhance creativity yet promote things that almost destroy it or inhibit it doesn't seem to make much sense. I'm getting better at still drawing while I'm on my soapbox. It's a careful balancing act. But see, we've already covered all the art related questions, and so there's only that's really all there is left to talk about. We could talk about pop culture stuff. We could talk about, Star Wars and Fallout 5 and whatever else people are.
I've, I think I've talked Star Wars to death. I love Star Wars, but I mean, I've watched every single video on YouTube about all the new Star Wars theories. About who Snoke might be, and you know, I don't know if you've been watching all that. Depends how into Star Wars you are.
Yeah. Here's an interesting topic to talk about really quick.
Oh,
Lucas.
I'll just before you do, I
Uh-huh.
will say this: the guy in charge of Disney Films has said because Episode 7 was really popular, we are just going to get wall to wall Star Wars films now until the end of time.
Oh,
I
I hope not.
thought that was awesome.
Yeah. I mean, they
On the
kind.
downside, because um, Batman tested really well in screen audiences, from Batman versus Superman,
Uh-huh.
because Batman himself tested really well from that film, they're gonna focus on the Batman character again. So we're gonna be getting a lot of what's his name as Batman.
Oh, Ben Affleck's gonna be Batman now.
Yeah, we're gonna be getting a lot of
Shh.
Ben Affleck Batman.
Jeez. Yay.
That's not a good thing. I am not a fan of Ben Affleck Batman.
No, I mean neither. It doesn't
I
sound.
mean, I've not seen him yet, but I'm already not a fan of Ben Affleck Batman.
Yeah.
Nobody needs that. Go on, what you gonna say?
they've had some weird Batmans. So Lucas Melody says there's a new alternative from Artisol, and I think he's talking about. Have you seen that? It looks just like the Cintiq Companion. Not even just like it. It's a freaking literal ripoff of the Cintiq Companion. It almost looks identical, if not identical, from what I can
Right.
tell. It's Artisul. I've seen a couple people review
Somebody
it.
bob a, will somebody bob a link in the comments, please?
So here's my opinion, which has kind of developed over time, because I know
Oh, actually, can you even bob a link in the comments?
maybe not.
Yeah, I don't think.
Artisul. I hate to give them any promotion here. So here's what I've
A.
art isul artisul.
Ah,
Here's my opinion on this stuff. When
say it
you're
again. A.
artisul. That's Artisol, people. Go to artisol.com and
Yeah, I'm
get your
really sorry.
genuine. So it's like any other. Here's the thing. There's a difference between competition and people straight up ripping you off. When you're
Yeah.
copying somebody's product and it looks exactly like it and it has the exact same features, except you've made it with cheaper parts so that you can charge less for it, yet you can make more money, that's not competition. And what that's doing is that's ultimately it's not good for the digital art community, I think. Now,
Well, technically, it can be classed as stealing.
it
A
can, but
company could be sued for that.
they could, but apparently they can get away with it. So here's the thing: people want to say Wacom products are too expensive. Well, it takes money for research and development, does it not? You have to pay people to come up with the technology, to build the things, to advertise the things, to do tech support, to fix the tablets, and that's why they charge a lot of money. The reason why these other companies don't charge as much money is because they don't have research and development. They steal their products from other companies. They don't provide quality tech support. They don't, you know, they don't do half of the things that the company that they're trying to basically emulate does. And so you're making it harder for the company that is innovating and that is bringing new features to the digital arts community by buying products from companies who are ripping them off and eating away at their profits. And they're not just making profits to so everybody gets $1 million paycheck. You know what I mean? They put a lot of
Mm-hmm.
money into things like drivers. They update their drivers all the time. Good
Now the
luck.
funny thing is, I've noticed. Yeah, they've even got the little pen case.
Visually, does it not look
It's
almost?
identical.
It's
They've
pretty.
even got the kind of Wacom pen case
Yeah,
that comes with a companion.
but I'm willing to bet that a lot of that stuff is not because they can't because of patent rights. A lot of that stuff is not the same quality of technology. It looks the same, and that's kind of the problem. Is if you're gonna go based on looks, all of this stuff looks great. The price looks great. They show a Photoshop thing with a picture on the screen, and the picture looks great, even though that's not a real picture of the screen. They have
Well, I'll
you
tell
know
you now. First thing I can notice is the companion has one cable,
yeah.
kind of a one-piece cable.
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't.
Yeah, because they can take the universal generic stuff that Wacom can't really complain about, and they can add it because probably all that stuff is assembled in China anyways, no matter who makes it. So the parts are there, but there's not patents on those, or they don't have to worry about the patents for those parts because they're probably universal things. But there are some things like Wacom's pen technology and probably a few other things that they can't rip off, even if they want to. And
Yeah.
so yeah, you're getting a tablet for cheaper, but you're not getting the same quality tablet. And at that point, you're really paying a lot more than you should for something that's not really worth that much. If you were getting an identical tablet to the Cintiq Companion and you were paying $500 or $700, that's a whole different story. But when you're getting something that looks like a companion, and yeah, given it probably does most of what a companion will do, um, that's fine. But the problem is they're ripping off that other company. So that's my opinion on that.
Yeah.
And if it were you, let's say all of a sudden somebody takes your devil drawing and they put it up and they just flip it horizontally and they make the devil blue and it gets a whole bunch of likes and they get a whole bunch of subscribers and they make a whole bunch of money. How are you going to feel personally as an artist that you got somebody didn't even make a derivative of your work. They just straight up ripped it off. So that's
Exactly.
I've had a lot of rants today.
What about this? How did you hear about this?
I've seen a couple of reviews on YouTube, and I want to say I'm not positive because my memory's not that good. I want to say that they contacted me and offered to send me one to review, and I didn't even get back to them
Right.
because it's like it's not worth my time to say here's the real deal, and then here's something that's because it's not even an issue of the thing working or not. If it works or not, that's fine. If you have a problem with it, is somebody going to get back to you and fix that problem? Or if you need to send it back, are they going to refund your shipping? If Windows 10 or 11 or 12 comes out, are they still going to provide a driver for later versions of Windows? The older generic tablets that I've bought, you have a hell of a time getting a driver for that if you upgrade Windows because after a while they don't need to support it. They don't have an image to maintain.
Yeah.
In my video that I have on the Cintiq alternative that I got from Yuji, I sent that thing back to them and paid $50 in shipping, and they never refunded my shipping, even though they agreed to in an email. So they straight up ripped me off. And you could say, well, that's a different company, but honestly, these companies are all basically the same. They have the same agenda, and that's ride the coattails of a company that's actually innovating and actually doing positive things for the arts community and getting a little bit of residual money by having something that looks superficially like that product.
Yeah.
So That's my opinion on the Art of Soul.
I will say that straight away on their homepage, they have two reviews by YouTube people that I recognise.
Yeah, and they're going to because they're probably people
Yeah, well, if they've
who
contacted you, then they're obviously contacting. They're the ones going out there contacting people.
there's incentive to do reviews.
Yeah.
You can get paid. You can get to keep the tablet. You can get views on your channel because people are searching for that because it's a hot keyword.
Yeah.
Or you can do it because you genuinely believe that that's a good product and you believe that people could benefit from having that, and you don't have any concerns with how it affects the company that's being ripped off by that company. So
Yeah.
there's multiple reasons to do it. I chose not to do it because, I don't. Wacom's not paying me anything to promote their products. I promote their products because people ask me every day, what's the best tablet? And if I start telling them that something that's not the best is the best, I have no integrity at that
I'm
point.
exactly the same.
I have to do
I'm
that. I
exactly.
can't be fair to everybody and say that everything is good because it's not. I'll say that yeah, that stuff works, but you can go to the dollar store and you can buy all kinds of stuff from the dollar store that works, but it sucks and it falls apart, or there's some problem with it where you buy it and you go, damn it, I shouldn't have bought this because it was cheap and I knew I shouldn't have bought it, but I did, and now I'm stuck with it. So let's see what else we have here in the comments. Kobu Zero says they know a lot of people who are perfectly functional and productive people who smoked pot and actually struggled in their life when they stopped. That's interesting. Uh, Thomas says, don't worry about offending people. Someone will always be offended. You can't please them all. I hope some people will be offended by my next piece, even if I myself think it's going to be pretty funny. And, that's good. Like, as an artist, you should be able to push the boundaries of
I
what's
think there's
acceptable.
something wrong if you're not doing it.
Yeah. AB Creative says, in that video, I was honest, and that's the right thing to do.
Exactly.
So thank you for that. Kobu Zero has an art question. How do you not lose your inspiration or interest when doing art that takes a long time? Obviously, a commission piece would hold your interest because it's work. But what about your personal projects?
Um, because I think most professional artists have. Well, no, I'll start again. Some artists like me who paint for a very long time have kind of tunnel vision. Some artists only do quick pieces. You get a lot of artists who will only do pieces that take a day or so. Some artists will only spend a day or so on a piece.
Yeah.
And then you get artists like me who will happily spend 2 weeks on a piece. Some artists couldn't dare to do that because it'd kill them. But then you get people like me who will happily do uber detailed work. I love to do uber detailed work. I'm happy spending 2 weeks on a piece. I was just about to start doing something here, um, adding more detail to this, because I mean this piece here, I haven't worked on for ages, and I'm not going to finish it today. But I'm who knows when I'll next work on it. This is just a little piece, but I'm happy spending ages on it. And yeah, in truth, over time, this will probably have taken me a couple of weeks by the time I'm finished. But I'm happy to focus on it. But on a personal piece like this, I can leave it and come back to it ages, And I've probably got a few of these on the go at once as well. That's one way of getting around it, is you can just leave it and come back to it, leave it and come back to it, and have a few on the go. But if it's a client piece, yeah, I will have to nail down and just spend 2 weeks on it all at once. But yeah, it just depends on your personality.
Yeah. I think that's what I would have said too. Take a break from it and have some variety. Um, also,
Yeah,
I
but
think
you
it's
might not be able to if it's a client piece.
Yeah, well, definitely not. But for personal piece, I think, it's kind of a test of how much you're into that piece or the success of that piece. Because for me, if I'm working on something for a long time, I'm so excited about it and I'm so happy with the progress at that point that I want to see it through and I'll finish it. It may take me some time, but I'll finish it. If it's something that I quit working on and I just abandon it for a long period of time and I'm not thinking about it anymore, it's probably never going to get finished. Because I don't that there's nothing about it that was worth finishing. Like it would have been a finished piece. It might have looked cool, but you know, I quit caring about it at some point. So
Maybe it just wasn't good enough to go in your portfolio then.
I don't think it's necessarily like if it's good or not. It's just maybe when I started it, I had an idea that I thought was better, and then once I actually visualized it and put it on the canvas, it wasn't as compelling. You know.
Yeah.
Um,
Maybe you needed to do something, and by getting it that far, you'd gotten it out of your system.
yeah. I will have to go in probably about 10 or 15 minutes. So let's try to answer a few more questions here.
We have been on the air a while, I notice.
Yeah, almost 3 hours. Uh,
Wow.
um, Somebody said maybe it was Van Gogh that drank the absinthe. Could be.
Yeah, that does sound.
I think probably a
That
lot of
does
them
sound.
did. And that's if no people don't know what absinthe is, I believe it's a liqueur that has wormwood in it. And wormwood, I believe, I've never done it myself. I've never had absinthe, but I believe it's a hallucinogen.
Yep, and the term blind drunk actually comes from absinthe because you can drink so much that you will go blind.
Wow. Yeah. And
How
that's that
cool is that?
that's a pretty extreme level of expanding your mind, and that's something that I couldn't really recommend to people because I'm not saying do or don't do it or whether I'm for or against it. I'm just saying like
Do or die.
pot's one thing. Pot's not really gonna. The worst time you could have on pot is nothing near the worst reaction you could have to hallucinating. You could seriously injure yourself or somebody else hallucinating. So it's not for everybody, but for some people, especially in a lot of people's culture and religion around the world, it's integral to that. So it if used properly, like anything else, it has positive benefits. If used irresponsibly, like anything else, it has consequences. Um, Cynthia Clavey says if Wacom wants to be the one and the only, they have to set up Linux support. If you stray out of Photoshop and Wacom focused programs, you're on your own, it feels. I thought Wacom had some Linux drivers. Or maybe they do, but it's not adequate enough.
I think what it is somebody else created them maybe.
Uh, yeah, I mean, they should, like Linux is not as popular. Well, I can't really, I don't know a whole lot about Linux, but I'm guessing it's probably not quite as popular as Windows and Mac. So, there's kind of a reason why they're not going to put a lot of resources into it because there might not be a lot of people using it, which is kind of unfair. But um, at the same time, as a business, you can't please everybody, and it's kind of hard to support everything. I mean, if you think about, you know, like let's say like Corel Painter, they have a really good desktop application, but then when you go into like the mobile painting, it's nowhere near as good, and they want to be able to cater to those people, but at the same time, like they're probably not going to put as much effort into the mobile program as Procreate would, since that's mainly what Procreate does. So
Yeah.
every company has to have their priorities, and then if they can do extra beyond that, then that's even better, I think. But
Well, it's like a lot of companies have just said we're not going to do iPad apps because we can't afford to sell them for like $6.
yeah, that makes sense
You
too.
know, we wouldn't be able to make them and constantly update them for $6. Just not going to happen. Sorry.
My question, I guess, because I'm not really a Linux person, what would be the advantage to using Linux and not just getting a computer that's Windows or Mac? besides the fact that Apple and Microsoft are, horrible rich corporations with a stranglehold on the computer market.
You forgot that I had that.
Yeah. You're quick with that too. Like you had to you had to be Johnny on the spot with that. Let's see if we got any other comments here. Valrex says, as long as I've been using drawing tablets, Wacom has been the only game in town. But with the Apple stuff and others, I'm happy to see competition. They would still go.
Since the beginning of time, I've come across other people.
I think it's fair to call Apple and Microsoft competition to Wacom because they're producing their own products with their own technology that are not identical. So if you want to go out and buy a Surface Pro or you want to buy an iPad Pro, fine. I'm not going to say don't do that. I'm not going to say that those are detrimental to the digital arts community. I'm not going to say that they don't. I'll say they don't work as well as something like a Wacom tablet would, but I guess that's kind of that's up to your opinion. I mean, you
Yeah.
could definitely get quite a bit of work done on a Surface Pro 4. The Apple products, not so much, but
I
you know,
keep saying to people that, you know, my Surface Pro 4 is brilliant, but it's my secondary device.
yeah,
You know, how could it compete on a day-to-day basis to my Wacom Cintiq 27? You
yeah,
know, I love my Surface Pro to bits, but at the moment I've got a MacBook Pro plugged into my 27 QHD Touch, and that's my workhorse.
yeah,
Now, I have the latest, top of the line, spec'd out MacBook Pro, and that's plugged into my Wacom. And I'm thinking of actually that MacBook Pro, even though it's top of the line and it's the latest one, even though it's the latest one, it's still 4 years old.
yeah,
That's the last time Apple released a MacBook Pro. And I'm a bit like, do I want to buy the new MacBook when it comes out? I've had MacBook Pros, for about 10 years now,
mm-hmm,
for like maybe longer. And I'm like, Surface Pro's really nice. So I'm actually looking at changing and actually getting the Surface Book
yeah. That would
because
be
it's
nice.
twice as powerful as the MacBook Pro. So going like Surface all the way.
Yeah. Um.
So having that plugged into my Wacom. Because imagine that I can have that plugged into my Wacom
Mm-hmm.
and then a bit like working on my Wacom, and then like, oh, I want to go downstairs for a bit, and then just pull the top part of my Surface Book out,
That'd be sweet.
walk downstairs, and I'm still drawing away on
Mm-hmm.
the Surface Book, on that screen with a Surface Pen, and I've not even shut down Painter.
Yeah.
It just jumped over to the other screen.
Definitely be a time saver, and
How
you'd be able
I
to
don't
do.
have to transfer anything over.
Yeah.
Be mind blowing, wouldn't it?
Uh-huh.
So I'm thinking of doing that.
Just in Time says, as a beginner, should you sketch traditionally using pen and paper and then scan it to color or trace it on the computer, or would it make more sense to directly try to draw everything on the tablet?
I gave my scanner away. I didn't even sell it. I gave it away um, about 2 years ago because I hadn't plugged it in about 2 years either. I don't see the point in scanning anything.
Not
Um,
anymore,
if
no.
if I do sketch anything, I put it on the desk, get my phone out, take a photo of it, and I don't even need to email it to myself anymore because it just kind of appears on my computer,
Yeah.
with a cloud. So it's kind of like meh. And that's really, I don't even do proper sketches. They're just doodles.
Yeah.
But there might be something special about the doodle that I liked. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Something that may not I may not recreate if I sketch it properly. So I might take that doodle into Painter or Photoshop and then, kind of sketch over the doodle.
Mm-hmm.
But that's about it. Very rarely. I mean, with something like the Surface Pro, um, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, somebody gave me a stylus to review that I can use on my iPad.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, it obviously it doesn't have pressure sensitivity. Um, it works on the same principle as using your finger, but it has a tiny, tiny nib, the same size as your Wacom nib.
Yeah.
But but it works on a normal iPad. So if you wanted, like the cheap alternative to an iPad Pro, say if you're like me and you already own a normal iPad,
Mm-hmm.
this thing is um, like 40 odd dollars. And I did some kind of sketching in one of the free iPad apps.
Mm-hmm.
I actually managed to come up with something really decent.
Nice.
And it worked on my iPhone as well. I was like, yay, stylus for my iPad. It's the first time ever. And I owned an iPad 1 when they first came out. And like this is the first time ever that I've actually sketched on my iPad.
Nice.
I was like, I actually enjoy this. Still wouldn't buy an iPad Pro.
Yeah.
Because I don't like that pencil.
I don't blame you.
This one was from a company called the Joy Factory.
Same ones who gave you the stand too.
Yeah, yeah.
That's cool.
Because they gave me the stand, and then when they shipped it over, they were like, "Oh, we're going to send you a stylus to try as well."
Nice.
It works on the Surface, funnily enough, as well, because it works on apparently it works on any tablet,
That's cool.
but it works best on the iPads.
Yeah.
But
I think my opinion on whether or not you should scan it and trace it or draw it directly, I guess it depends on the piece and what you're more comfortable doing. It's definitely more steps to scan it and clean it up and then redraw it. And in a sense, you'd probably be spending less time probably drawing it directly on the computer, but it really depends on how you work. If you're kind of transitioning into digital and you're more comfortable drawing traditionally, that might kind of be your bridge to go from one to the other. But it's hard to say. I don't really scan anything in, so it's easier for me just to draw it digitally. Um,
yeah,
let's see. Other Thomas agrees with the sketching digitally. He trashed his scanner as well. So I'm gonna call my piece finished. Our cat's not feeling well, so we have to go take it to the vet real quick. Um,
your cat.
yeah, it's, it's
Oh,
having
sorry,
some.
man.
It's having
Never
some.
mentioned that before.
It's having some. Well, it's just last night we noticed it's been like in the litter box like constantly. So I think something's going on. So we're just gonna have it get it checked out a little bit.
Is your
Uh,
cat male or female?
it's male. We have two cats. I have my cat, and then
Yeah.
my girlfriend has a cat too.
Uh,
And we have a dog. Got all kinds of pets.
well, at least you know it's not pregnant now.
Yeah. This one's a kitten, so or a
Yeah,
younger cat, adolescent cat, I guess.
yeah.
Um, so I hope everybody enjoyed this live stream. I hope my request here met everybody's expectations. I tried to do kind of fire magic coming out of this sorceresses thing. Lawrence, you'll have to see it later. You probably have no idea what I've been doing.
Yeah, I have not been able to see your drawings all night. I'm going to go and get, surprise myself
Yeah, you got a lot
and
done
be.
on that. The ear and the teeth and everything. It looks really good.
Well, this is it. I'm not sure how how much I've gotten done really. I'll have to watch it back and
Yeah, you got quite a bit done. Teeth weren't nearly as detailed. Neither was the ear.
well, hopefully it looks quite good.
Yeah. Um, all right. Well, I think we'll go ahead and wrap up this session. In case you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to both our channels. Lawrence
Yes,
is at
please do.
Lawrence Can Draw on YouTube, and I'm YouTube/Aaron
Yeah.
Rutten. We both
You can
have lots.
find me on virtually all social media platforms by just typing in Lawrence Can Draw
Yeah, yeah.
or just Lawrence Man.
We've both pretty thoroughly saturated the internet with our work. But in subscribing, you'll get notifications when we do these live streams. So if you're interested in seeing us do more of these, definitely check that out. And check out our past live streams of Guess a Sketch and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody for watching today and for all your great comments. Thanks for your wishes about the cat. I think he'll be fine. And sounds like we answered a lot of questions, so that's good. And thanks to you, Lawrence, as well, for
And you
drawing
too.
with me today. All right, so we will see y'all later. Thanks for watching.
Brilliant. Cheers, folks.